me and Ryan have been officially welcomed to the jungle that is Barstool Sports.
Our white whale, Sidney Crosby.
Shave his head! Shave his head! Shave his head!
Ryan Whitney, Paul Bissonette, R.A., Mike Grinelli, Spittin Chiclets.
What is up, folks? Oh my God, we are back, and what a week we just had. The NHL trade deadline came and went with some absolute fireworks at 3 o'clock Eastern. Welcome to episode 549 of Spittin Chiclets, presented to you by Pink Whitney. Look at that shirt, Keith. Look at that unreal hoodie. Look at that logo. Look at that pink on the black. I love it. Somebody actually brought me over. They needed to get a bottle signed. It was one of those Big Daddies. Those Big Daddies are intimidating. You see one of those, you're like, oh my God, this thing's a wagon. And I signed it. I signed it gladly. It was for Falls. I should have charged them, but I signed it. And then, you know what happened? About 2 hours later, the Bruins traded Brad Marchand, and then people, the kid who they were chugging it. People started chugging the big bottles. They were drinking nips. It was like, what are we gonna do? Our captain's gone, and thank God we have Pink Whitney here to save us. So thank you so much to Pink Whitney. Thank you to all you guys.
It helps soothe the pain, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And it helps maybe build some even more excitement if your team did something that you were happy with, Biz. And I saw you. We'll get into you and your club in a little bit. We have a long show in store going over everything. You were happy. You were upset and you were sad and you were poopy pants, and then all of a sudden you were happy. I think your grade went from a C to an A+.
No. It went from a B+ to an A. It went from a B+ to an A. I was hoping for Braden Shen. Love Scott Laughton. He's a great guy. I didn't realize that they were getting 50% retained. And then last minute they get Carlo, which also 15% retained, and he's got 2 more years left on his deal. So we don't need to hop in the Leafs quite yet, but boys, this league, hanging out with Elliot Friedman, I do not envy that guy for 1 second. The life that he must have to live and the stress that he is under during these crazy times, and even the information that I'm getting last minute here before the podcast on how deals all went down, the league is on fire right now. The momentum of the NHL and all these crazy deals and guys switching teams, it's fucking insane. It's exactly what we needed. The cap's going fucking north, and we're taking over, baby. Hey, next stop, Goodell. Keep your fucking head on a swivel, baby. Keep your fucking head on a swivel.
Let's go after the NBA first.
Okay.
Let's settle down with the Sunday slate of NHL games, and actually that brings me to the point. Did you see LeBron just fake getting elbowed in the head against the Celtics?
Oh, he got clipped.
Buddy, he didn't get clipped at all. He didn't get clipped at all. He's just diving around, and then the NHL has blockbuster deals and all this action going, and then you see LeBron yelling at Stephen A. Smith because he was making fun of his son who shouldn't be in the NBA but was in the NBA, and it's like all of a sudden the NBA's got this just pathetic display of unsportsmanlike play by LeBron and diving and being a diva, and the NHL.
No.
We got trades, we got fights, we got GMs who despise each other, we got insiders. It's nonstop action. You're
Insider
right,
wars going on online.
Wars. Oh,
it was a hell of a deadline.
Hey, the insider wars.
And then the nuke last minute, past 3 o'clock, Brad Marchand going to the Rat King, going down to the Rats.
I saw it. I think people immediately had the what's the slap shot with the Hanson brothers, you know, and then Tkachuk, Bennett, and Marchand on the ice together, and it's so funny. The best part about it is Florida just bullied Toronto a couple of years ago. They bullied the shit out of them. Now they're probably going to play again. I think they're a little above Tampa. We'll see who wins the division, but they're going to play, and I'm going to get to watch them do it to your team again. But it kind of brings me to Keith. I should have brought you in sooner. You are now a Leafs fan, so it's like I got to battle both of you idiots.
Well, first and foremost, I'm a Cats fan.
Okay.
But my second team, just because I learned from the best, learned from Biz, you can choose as many teams as you want. You can have 7 in each division. You can have 8 in one division, 3 in the other. So they're in my 2-hole. Really love what they did going out, trying to bolster their roster. Didn't need anything too special up front. Bring in a guy like Scotty Laughton, just an absolute workhorse every day. on and off the ice. He's going to be amazing for that locker room. I saw some interviews that Austin Matthews already knew him, and so they have a relationship.
Hey,
He
playing the parade.
He kind of
Playing
looks
the
like a
parade.
mini Matthews.
He knows
Doesn't he?
Matthews, so let's get the route going right downtown Toronto now. That's it. He knows Matthews. Sick.
He looks like a miniature clone of him.
But I think the biggest deal in Biz, correct me if I'm wrong, you wanted Luke Shen the whole time, but I think Carlo, a little bit younger, bigger body, or longer body, I think he's going to be an absolute huge pickup for them come playoff time.
I had no idea that they were even in the realm of getting him. I didn't even know that he was available, really. I thought potentially that it was going to be a package deal with Risto. It just made sense since Philly was going to send Laughton over, but very happy. I mean, a very serviceable defenseman on the right side for Boston for a long time. Obviously has tons of playoff experience. I heard he's an incredible guy, very into his faith. So just a guy that you know exactly what he's going to bring to the rink day in, day out. I think that most Bruins fans, but along with the rest of the team, would say that he's probably underperformed a little bit this year. But hey, man, when you come over to a team like Toronto, they got a fucking hell of a lineup. Things are going to be a lot different. And they address their needs. That's all I got to say. I was hoping for maybe a Luke and Braden Chen coming over, a little brotherly love. But I thought that Braden would have provided a little bit more offense in that second hole and obviously more term on his contract to fit in just in case maybe JT doesn't come back. But ultimately, a grade A for Brad Treliving and the Toronto Maple Leafs for solidifying that playoff roster. But hey, boys, the Atlantic, wagon. The Central, a wagon. All three of those teams, top three teams in those divisions, I think could win a Stanley Cup. Are we all in agreement of that?
Agree. And 2 of the 6 will be gone after the first round. It might be the number 1 year for the people who don't like the current format. Biz, I wish, thinking back to Thayer Academy, sitting there, I wish you were my teacher because you chuck out A's like no other. You chuck out Hall of Fame, you chuck out A pluses. It's like you grade on a scale nonstop. I love it. It's true fandom of the team. I could see you got your hat on. But you guys
I would
say,
put Yans in the Hall of Fame. You'd go in as a combined player and builder.
Yans is Hall of Fame for us, no doubt. But I mean, you chuck like
Shane Doan Hall of Fame.
That's another one that's like a good
Boyd
argument.
Gordon Hall of Fame.
You'd be like Steven Dixon, Hockey Hall of Fame. Like I think anyone who's ever passed you the puck.
He gave me my nickname. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Put him in the hall. Put him in the hall. But you say that Toronto maybe didn't. They bolstered their lineup and they didn't go big game hunting. But then Elliott, this guy, this nonstop insider working his magic, breaks the news Saturday that they had a deal in place that they were willing to trade for Rantanen. And Marner would possibly be going the other way, enough to where they go to Mitch Marner and they say, are you willing to get traded to Carolina? He said, nope. What do you think this now does? And there's arguments to both sides, but I'm curious if you have an opinion on if that matters at all within the locker room or to Mitch Marner that, holy shit, in the midst of my best season and us having the best team we've had since I came into the league, they're asking if I'll accept a trade.
I think it's a little bit unsettling. I think it completely waves out the possibility that Mitch Marner takes any form of a hometown discount, which I don't blame him now at this point for being asked, from my understanding, in the summertime about it and prior situations where he's been asked to be moved. I think that the way that he's performed so far this year under the gun of knowing that his contract's up and the potential of being asked to be moved or signing somewhere else has been remarkable. I think that everything is going to depend on him coming back with the Leafs on how he performs in playoffs. But with the recent news coming out that they were willing to try to move on for him for Rantanen and ask him to waive the no move, I probably lean 49% that he's staying, 51% that he's gone. That it could be way higher than that, and maybe he's completely checked out. But the good news is, boys, is he has to perform if he wants to get paid. And
no, he doesn't.
You don't think he's got to perform in playoffs?
I think
get the max dollar?
in first round, if they lost in 4 games and he had no points, he'd sign an 8-year deal with somebody for $13 to $14 million. I actually think whoever he ends up signing with on that deal, I'm interested to see if it's like a true contender, and if it is, what the number will be, or if it's a team, I don't know, that really doesn't have expectations for a couple years, where then it could be over 14. But he's paid no matter what. He's paid.
Well, I'll tell you this. In Toronto, there's no way that he's taken anything less than $14 million, I think, at this point, considering that Rantanen was, I believed, offered over 13.5 by Toronto, and Marner has performed in that market for as long as he has. So I think that now that's his baseline, and that's what they've done to himself. And I've actually caught wind that there was actually another package on the line to move to Carolina to get Rantanen to sign. So they would have kept Marner, and they would have also brought Rantanen in and signed him for close to $14 million. But Rantanen said, nope, don't want to go there. I want to go to Dallas. That is the rumblings out there, and there's a little bit more information that I want to clear the air on with the Rantanen situation. Do you guys want to hop into that right away? Because I would say that's the biggest move at the deadline. He ends up going over to Dallas, gets I believe, a great deal for the Dallas Stars at 8 times 12. State tax. We get it, but the deal is finally done, and they get probably the biggest, best power forward and a guy we know can perform in playoffs for a very, very good tag.
I wanted to touch on Marner a little bit too. This is why you have a no trade clause or no move clause, for reasons like this. And I love the fact that he stuck up for himself and said, nope, I don't want to go there. I want to stay here, try to finish something that, I was drafted by this team. I'm going to try to win a cup with them. Whatever happens in the summertime will happen then. But the Rantanen situation just keeps giving, and it's amazing. And I absolutely love the fact that players now are sticking up for themselves, getting what they want, not putting themselves in situations that they do not want to be in, because for a long time it was like that. Guys got traded there, and that was just kind of the end of the day. You had to finish out your term there. But nowadays, these big boys, if they don't want to be somewhere, they're not going to sign there. And Rantanen was a great example of that. And do you think it'll deter teams from making trades before the deadline, where, they find out that if a guy doesn't like it or not?
I think that you're starting to see the trade deadline's more about actually trading for guys with term. It used to always be, hey, like, look at every UFA coming up this summer and take 80% of them, and they're on the block, or their possibility of being traded is definitely higher than for a guy who was signed to term. And now, like Biz, you talk about, like, Laughton's got a year left, Carlo's got 2 years left. The Oilers got Wallman. He's got time left on his deal. It's like all these different deals. You see more term. The Rantanen one, to me, it was at one point like, what does he want? Because he all of a sudden all these deals were coming up, and it sounded like he was turning them all down, or Carolina was turning them down. We end up finding out that Edmonton's involved with Rantanen. Edmonton's got a deal locked up in place with him at around $14 million per year, I've heard. And then they didn't have the assets that Carolina wanted. Carolina, what a crazy deadline for them. Probably one of the most wacky month for a contending team I've ever seen. They get Rantanen. They have no word and no clue that he's willing to resign there. I think many Hurricanes fans who you went to war with, Biz, I saw you replying nonstop.
I was on a 4-hour flight last night battling with Caniacs online. Like, I was going at all of the fucking...
They think they were lied to. They're like, we were lied to. It's like, no, you weren't.
No, you weren't. I'll start with the Rantanen stuff. This summer, they started talking with Colorado, okay? They got a shit sandwich offer. They got offered lower than what David Pasternak's making, so obviously they were not going to accept. So there was a little bit of back and forth, but ultimately Colorado was staying at their number, okay? There was never... I also heard that Rantanen did speak with McFarland and the Colorado Avalanche. He wanted to stay in Colorado and was willing to take a hometown discount, and he was blindsided by the trade. They were then asked by Carolina, can we start negotiating? And their camp said no. So there was never a situation where Rantanen and his camp said, okay, we know this is happening, and yes, we're willing to open up negotiations with Carolina. That's misinformation that's out there. So Carolina ended up making that move knowing that he didn't want to negotiate with them. That's why I thought this was crazy. That before I even knew this information, I thought it was crazy that they made that deal without putting pen to paper. I would not have done that deal. So fast forward 43 days before the deadline, he is blindsided by that trade. I sincerely believe that if they would have offered him 8 times 12 and said, take this or we're going to move you to Carolina, Rantanen would have signed that deal. Never once did Colorado make Rantanen feel like he was part of the big three. Honestly, I was shocked to fucking hear that. This going back to the end of last season, how did fucking Edmonton make Leon Draisaitl feel? How do they make the first order of business?
I think they're different players. I think you saying that is a sign almost that like maybe without McKinnon, he's not like the same. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like obviously Colorado.
But we're talking about Leon Draisaitl taking a hometown discount at 14 when Rantanen would have did so at 12. True. And Colorado was not interested in doing that. And then they blindside him and move him without ever throwing that 8 times 12 number. They stood at what $100,000 more than what Panarin's making. I think that that's crazy given with when Panarin signed and where we are today, knowing where the cap's going and not wanting to keep Rantanen. I think that that's crazy. Do I think that they got a great bargain return and getting Natchez and has that worked out? And are they looking like geniuses by doing so, getting him for 6.5 for this year and next year based on what he's being paid? Absolutely. I stick to my word, though, on the fact that I think that Tulsky was out of his mind for making that move with Rantanen, knowing that he didn't want to negotiate going there, but yet still doing it and expecting Rantanen when he got there to finally sign. Let's completely different styles of play, right?
Yeah.
Colorado top 3 in like zone entries and puck play and keeping and playing with the thing. Carolina's top 3 worst. They're a dump and chase team. That's not how Rantanen wants to play. So regardless of what you want to play him, do you think he wants to spend the next 8 years there playing a completely different style than what he's been accustomed to in the NHL? That was my gripe with making the move. Now, we can go off of what the return what they got. I think that Stankoven is a perfect fit for Carolina. You got him not only this year, but next year on his entry-level contract. He's a puck hound. He's the type of guy that can forecheck and a type of guy who's going to want to be there, right? Like he fits in perfectly with that system. Do I think that looking back, I would have traded Natchez and Drury for Stankoven and 2 late first? I would not have done that deal. That is, to me, that's an L. You're talking about a guy who in his NHL career, Stankoven, has less points than what Natchez is probably going to finish with the rest of the season. So I just don't see where that adds up. And Carolina Hurricanes fans not only being misinformed that Rantanen was going to negotiate in good faith before they made the trade, and not true. And then they think he comes over and is poopy pants and shit the bed as far as his production. They play a completely different style. Rantanen doesn't want to dump and chase. He wants to play with the puck. He's been doing that with the best player in the world his whole fucking career. So I believe it was a botched move and a learning lesson for Tulsky. And that's all I've said from the beginning. I think he did a solid job in getting a guy that probably wants to be there and is going to fit their system for the rest of this year. But the rest of the Carolina Hurricanes fans telling me like, oh, well, we're not even necessarily in win mode now. It's like, what? Yes, you are. What do you mean you're not in win mode now? So. Why would you trade for Rantanen if you're not in win now mode?
Good point.
What do you mean? They're all contradicting each other.
Tulsi's the only guy who Professor Bissonnette gave a B to. Everyone else got A's. That's when you know things are bad. I agree with everything, Biz.
Are you shocked that Colorado traded Rantanen and blindsided him without at least listen? I can understand being stubborn in negotiations, but the reason I brought up Leon Draisaitl is from the minute that Stan Bowman got there with is he said my first order of business, because Leon's deal is going to be the first one up, is to get him locked in. Instant comfort. And you know what that probably made Leon feel like? You know what? not only do I want to be here, I'm going to take a hometown discount. $14 million for Leon Draisaitl is a hometown fucking discount. Yes or no? Looking at where the cap's going, absolutely. Why was Mikko Rantanen in Colorado not treated like that? I think that that's crazy, and that's where I'm off base. And in fact, where I thought that why wouldn't Rantanen and his agent just have asked for a meeting with McFarland and Colorado? They did. So if you're a Colorado fan and you think that Mikko Rantanen was getting greedy about what he's asking for, I'm sorry. Mikko Rantanen is worth 8 times 12 all day long. And you could have actually got him at a hometown discount. If they think, and they're looking at their projected numbers and their charts, and they think that there's going to be a significant dip, or maybe they won't have enough money to lock in a generational defenseman in Cale Makar, sure. But if you're a Colorado Avalanche fan, know that one of the best players your organization's ever seen, one of your best playoff performers, and a guy that helped solidify a Stanley Cup and probably could have helped you bring at least one more in his tenure there, was not even given the opportunity to take a hometown discount at 8 times 12. That is crazy. And then it was lied about that he was willing to negotiate in good faith with Carolina before he even got there. That is not true. Not true.
Biz, what a rant. Whenever you have a little white stuff get on your lip while ranting, I know you're feeling it. And you're feeling it right now. You are bringing all this info. I wasn't aware of some of those things.
I feel like I'm going to get, I don't like having this much information. I get anxiety when I have this much information. That's why I do not envy Elliot Friedman. I don't want to know this. I'm more fearful of like an NHL CIA agent than I am the Irish Travelers at this point, knowing all this stuff that I know right now.
Louis Mangione's cousin who played hockey is just like waiting outside your door. I think as much as that was maybe kind of like dissing or saying that Chris McFarland in Colorado didn't do a job that maybe some Avs fans would have hoped. After that, this guy, I never seen a team be rebuilt on the fly like this. Yes. And we'll get into Colorado because he made some incredible moves, but that is an interesting discussion. Just go up another $200,000 for Rantanen, like $200,000 a year. Come on, what are we doing here?
Their original offer was 8 times 11.2.
So
that's
underneath Panarin. Highest paid winger in the game. But Dallas goes out and they make the move. And I saw that. I said, Jesus Christ. And then I said, this team is a complete wagon. So then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, they're playing Edmonton Saturday. This is a huge game. Edmonton, they're starting to figure it out a little bit. But here comes Dallas with Rantanen in the lineup. It looked like he'd been playing after crushing Pink Whitney all day for the Hurricanes compared to how he looked with Dallas. Talk about a natural fit. He was snapping it around. They looked awesome. Oilers got out to a huge lead. Ended up being a great game, 5-4. Oilers get the win. But I was like, oh, this guy fits in perfect there. And I think Dallas, I would say their top 9 forwards, would you argue, is there any team with a better top 9?
When they're healthy and Seguin's back and the fact that they picked up Granlund, it sucks to lose Stankoven, but man, oh man, that top 9 is absolutely lethal. It's
incredible. And like can also play like two-way hockey. It's not like there's a line that's just run and gun. Every player on that forward group, they play on both sides of the puck, but Dallas wasn't done. It actually Wyatt Johnson had to sign an extension before this all went down. And talk about a bargain. I mean, this guy, I think in the last like 10 games-ish, he's been on fire. And they signed him, what is it, 8.5 biz? Or look that up.
5 years, about $8.5 million, which I texted the group chat. I said, I thought maybe it came in a little high, but with where the cap's going, just because it was 5 years, right? It's kind of, you see that new type of bridge deal where guys knowing that the cap's going to keep accelerating at these ridiculous amounts, that seems to be where the number's at, man. And then even looking at his stats, like this is a guy who's played 82 games, I believe, his first 2 years of his entry level, and then this year is on pace to do the same. So just a lethal forward and a potential future captain of the Dallas Stars. So good for them, man. It's solidifying two unbelievable forwards for moving forward here.
Yeah, I'd like to, just with their young guys, like obviously, Jamie Benn and Sagan are on the back 9. Still have a lot of game left, but you got those young guys and Rantanen for the next 8 years. You know, they're going to be solid going forward. And unbelievable. Obviously, we had Jim Nill on, and we all loved him, but unbelievable set of kahunas on him going out there and making this all happen. Obviously, you gotta give up a piece to get a good piece, and you know he did that without, I think, hurting their team. And I thought it was a masterclass by him. But going back to Tulsky with Carolina, do you think they were like, okay, if we get him down here, he's gonna love it and sign here, or is it just like, hey, we might only have him for this year? But then you look at what Natchez is doing. It's like I don't know if the owner has too much say going on there, which, you know, you hear rumblings of that going on.
One thing that Carolina fans are saying is like, oh, well, like he's made it vocal that he doesn't want to be here and he was going to move on anywhere. It's like, well, I think that part of the reason that he wasn't happy there was he feels like he wasn't getting the reps to even prove himself, right? And you talk about the way that they play, where he's probably like, I want to possess the puck, man. I got all this speed and skill. Like, I want to play with this thing, not chase it. So obviously he takes that bridge deal in order to prove himself, where regardless if he quote unquote doesn't want to be there or is eventually going to move on, as a player, he still has to perform in order to get the money that he's going to want. So he's such a valuable piece. So that's where I just didn't see it making sense to move on unless you had pen to paper for Rantanen. And I think that the thought is regardless of them, his camp saying we don't want to negotiate before getting there, they thought once he got there and fell in love with it and loved the community, would eventually turn around and say, well, I'm getting offered 8 years times 13 and a half. That's as probably much as I'm going to get in the open market. Yeah, let's do it. But not only was he wrong, the comments that came after, they ran out of time in order to turn those 2 late first round picks in order to maybe address other needs. If we're going to talk about Carolina right now, I think that they're going to head to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, I think I think that they're the Winnipeg Jets of the East. I really think that the only thing
in the first round.
No, I think that they have a great roster, and the only thing they're truly missing is a second line center. I don't necessarily trust in Kotkaniemi, but the rest of that lineup is very strong. Like, if you look at Stankoven, he was playing first line right side. I thought he fit in great with Aho and then Svechnikov. That second line, I think it's solid. Once again, the trust in the second line center, much like going over to Winnipeg, they got Nemestikov. Don't think people have maybe necessarily the most trust in him to get the job done, especially in the division that they're in. But one of the best third lines in the league with Jordan Staal. You could say the same thing about Winnipeg, and a great overall bottom 6. Really like their back end with Brent Burns, Orlov. Maybe the only other thing they have the edge in is goaltending, right? But once again, Hellebuck hasn't proved himself in playoffs either. So you could throw that out the window until that happens. But the biggest thing for Carolina being they're going to wax New Jersey in the first round if they play.
They're probably hoping somehow to get Jersey instead of Columbus, who's buzzing.
Still think that they win that first round series. And I trust Carolina right now over playing Washington. And I know that Washington might even win the President's Trophy and is first in the East right now. Who you take in both healthy lineups if you're going Carolina against Washington?
I think with less power plays in playoffs, I think you're right. I think I'd go Carolina.
So they have an easy...
That's a coin flip for me.
That's a coin flip,
it's close.
But I wouldn't put it past them to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. So as much as Canes fans think I've been negative about the move and everything like that, the one element to this is not having the blessing of Rantanen's camp to negotiate a contract. You should have been prepared to not only move him, but what you were going to do with those 2 late first round picks. But they're, once again, the Caniacs are like, oh, we're not in win now mode. Like, well, we're going to turn those into unreal prospects. It's like, what the fuck does that matter, man? You got Rantanen for Stankoven. A middle 6 guy. We're talking about one of the best right wingers in the league right now. Like, what are we doing here?
And a 30th overall pick.
I also had some, I shouldn't say some. I had one message from a Caniac biz. It was a friendly one, though. He was talking about basically the fact Brindamore plays this style where you're just chipping it in, you're going and getting it. He kind of asked, why wouldn't he make an exception for like Aho and then maybe Rantanen? And I said, when one guy's doing it and the rest of the team isn't, it doesn't work. I think sometimes people might wonder, like, well, these guys could play this way and these guys could play. It's like, that's not how most really good teams go. They have a system. They want to control the puck. They want to have zone entries where they have control, and then they start the cycle. And then there's complete systems of go get the thing. So it's hard, just answering that guy, it's hard to mix and match that, I think. Obviously, you got a guy like McDavid. That's a little different, right? Aho's not McDavid. You cannot slow down somebody like McDavid McKinnon. But for a guy like Aho and that team, they have to play a certain way to be good, and they are good. They've had great runs.
And as good as I feel that Aho is, I feel like he's an incredible 200-foot center. I also feel that Rupe Hintz is a guy who's going to take the puck and get it in the middle of the ice at his own end, and he's going to bring it all the way to the offensive zone. He has that exact same speed that Nathan McKinnon has. So he's playing with a way similar center iceman as opposed to going with Sebastian Aho. So the Finnish friendship, throw that out the door. This had everything to do with style of play. That's it. So I know Carolina fans want to feel slighted. I don't hate your team. I don't hate your GM. My simple comments were, I think that if he could do it all over again, he would want a redo on that move. That's it. That's all. What other things do we need to talk about as far as the deadline here?
There was a monster deal in the other conference, in the East, and nobody saw it coming until kind of maybe a day or two before the deadline. I had seen when Marchand be traded at the deadline. It had been out there, and everyone was just so confident. Grinelli, why don't you come on here? That he'll resign. They'll work it out. And all of a sudden, what time did that happen at? Because I was on with game notes, and then on the computer, I had your Sportsnet thing on, Biz, and all of a sudden, Elliott drops the bomb. Brad Marchand, moving on. Talk about getting different reports and insiders battling. This one's been madness since the minute it happened. But the Bruins trade their captain, and they didn't just trade him. They trade him to the team that owns them. The way Bruins own Toronto and the way they own Biz's soul, Florida is the exact opposite and has pretty much crushed the entire organization, from the record-breaking season and losing in the first round to then winning the cup the next year and then getting your captain for a second rounder the following year. Gee, you're down and you're down bad, and I witnessed it happen.
The Bruins are dead.
The Bruins are dead.
I would say this trade has ruined me. It has ruined me as a human. My apartment is a disaster. I haven't done the dishes in weeks. I'm only eating fast food right now.
It happened on Friday.
I know, but dishes are the worst. Brad Marchand gave, short-nosed, big-nosed guys from Boston a shot at hope. And I'm very disappointed in Don Sweeney. And here's the thing, like, I was okay with the moves up until that point. Like, I liked the Coyle move. Like, Zellers helps build the prospect pool. I didn't like dealing Carlo to the Leafs. I never want to help the Toronto Maple Leafs, but it's a good deal. Fraser Minton's like the perfect B. You get a first-round draft pick in what's supposedly going to be a loaded draft in 2026. That's the Gavin McKenna draft. But I just hate this Brad Marchand deal. And let's think about teams who have broken it down in the past. Let's look at the Chicago Blackhawks. What was the first thing that they did? They overpaid veterans who wanted to come in and help build the culture. Nick Foligno, Pat Maroon, guys like that. Find me a better person than Brad Marchand to overpay and come in and help build the future. You can't. He's the perfect guy to come in and help build this future. And they did it for a conditional second-round pick. That's the worst part about it. And then Buccigross comes out and says the offer was $3.2 million AAV.
No.
I want to make some things clear on that.
No.
So
offers exactly what he's making now for 3 years.
yeah, I heard 6.63 times 3.
Exactly what he's making now. And Marchand's camp wanted 7.5. And Marchand had a meeting with Don Sweeney. And he went in and he said, I love it here. I've been a Bruin my entire career. I'm willing to meet you guys in the middle. And they would not come up on their offer. I thought that was insane. You wouldn't give Brad Marchand the same amount that you paid Lindholm. That's crazy to me.
That's insane.
Crazy.
And then, I mean, Sweeney talks about how it's a retool. It's not a rebuild. It's a retool. This draft pick, it's a 2028 conditional 2028 potential first round draft pick. Best case scenario. So you draft a kid in 2028 at the end of the first round. That's 3 years away. You're not seeing a return on this investment 5-6 years. That's crazy. Why not sign the guy I would have paid him 8-9 mil. I don't care. It helps build the future.
I think Marchand had every right to be just disgusted. That's why I kind of like, once I heard like rumblings of what happened, I'm like, oh, I'm seeing people right out there. Maybe he'll sign back in July. I'm like, no. Brad Marchand is no longer a member of the Bruins. But to all Bruins fans, it ended. It's over. Looking back, man, they signed Chara and Mark Savard, what was it, 06, 07? And they've had 18 years of being a contender. Like, this was an incredible run. They had one cup. They went to 3 finals. They had no chance in 13 against Chicago, especially with the injuries, but they had that 19 cup, right? St. Louis grabbed that from them in Boston. They had the amazing comeback against Vancouver down 2-0. It was amazing for 18 years, and everything comes to an end. It's similar to the Patriots on a way lesser scale. 1 title versus 6, seeing the leader of the team be, basically insulted by ownership and the GM and leave to Florida to be possibly going on to win another Stanley Cup right in your face. To see it end like this sucks, but it was a pretty special run here in Boston. The crazy thing is, though, now you have no prospects. Don Sweeney decides that he's not willing to move up, I don't know, what, couple $100,000 for Marchand, $1 million bucks, and he wanted to basically say, like, we're Xing out, we're done with this part of the Bruins' past. Now, I could see that, and I think Patriots fans would say, like, well, it worked for the Patriots forever. I mean, like, Belichick could be like, see you later, to just key players. When it was time for them to get paid, nope, we're done. You're a declining asset for us. But this just felt different because they're not a contender anymore. And he's the captain, and he wanted to be there.
But the Patriots won. That's the difference in the argument there is, like, the Patriots would win.
They kept winning.
Yeah, so you're like, okay, this works. This formula works here in football, and Belichick's doing it. But with legacy players like Tom Brady, no one from Boston like that. And one thing about Brad Marchand, and I think a lot of Bruins fans feel the same way, he joined the Bruins, like he became a prominent member on the team when I was a junior in high school. I'm 32 years old now. Like, all of my adult life, all I've known is Brad Marchand. So for me, it feels like almost like a piece of my childhood. Like, I look at this Bruins team now, and I just don't have the same feeling when Brad Marchand was on the team because a piece of my childhood is now gone. And it kind of sounds lame to say that, but I know a lot of Bruins fans feel the same way because 16 years, that's a long time. That's a lifetime. So it's tough.
It's amazing how quickly it can unravel too. Eh? Like you broke it down from Marchand's breakaway in Game 5 against Bobrovsky to now, and the fact that it's just been all
under 2 years that all happened. There's what is there? 5 guys on the team that broke the record in 2 years ago. Now I think Marchand, like, he had such a legacy with the Bruins because of how he came in as this 4th, 3rd liner, and he was just a rat. And then it was like, oh, the Bruins fans love this guy. Then the skill takes over. Like, I still remember Game 7 in 2011 watching, like, I was like, I didn't know he was this good. That whole playoff run, I should say. I was like, this guy. Then I started skate with him, like, oh my God, he's like a first-line stud in the NHL. And it all kind of just built up to that. And then he takes the C over. He changes a player completely because the bullshit, the licking, the madness, the suspensions, the fines, it pretty much all stopped. He changed a little bit.
He evolved.
Not a little bit. He
time.
changed a lot.
Yeah.
And Don Sweeney, it's like, you got no prospects now. And you think all the fans want him running the draft that's coming up with all their picks that they got? I not to mention the final thing I'll say, Keith, I'll throw it to you or Biz. When G talks about, like, growing up and watching him and seeing how good these teams were year in and year out, you can also go to Chicago and say, when they got rid of Kane and they decided totally, like, we're done with this part of our franchise, Keith was gone, Seabrook was gone, Taves was gone. They still have Pasta, McAvoy, and Swayman recently signed to 8-year deals. Like, it was just, why not just give $7 million, $7.5 million for him for the next 3 years? What are you doing?
That's the thing. It's 3 years. If he was asking for an 8-year deal at 36 years old, I'd be like, okay, Marchie, you're acting a little crazy. But a 3-year deal, he should have gotten whatever he wanted because you need a guy like that around the locker room. You need a guy to help, get the next guys ready to play. He's been around leaders like Chara and Bergeron. He knows what it takes, especially in that city. I mean, you see what happened. He gets traded, how beloved he was within the fans and stuff like that. So I think you need a guy like that around. And like I said, 3 years is not a long time. It's 3 years of helping your young guys. But the only thing I'll say that I like that Sweeney did was put him in a good situation. They put him in a position where he can go and win. He's gonna love being here, and he's gonna love it so much. I think he's gonna re-sign here. But yeah, I was at the doctor's office today, the Panthers doctor, just chatting with him. He's like, you think Marchand, like everyone hated him, everyone now they're buying his jerseys. Every person's gonna love this guy. He's gonna come down here, drive a golf cart to practice, wear sandals every day, go to the beach after practice. This dude is going to revive his career. He's going to play another 6 years down here instead of the 3 you would have got him at the Fleet Center. Gee,
There's a trickle-down effect here, I think, that not a lot of people are talking about as well. Like, Don Sweeney, I don't think is the most liked guy in the Bruins locker room. Like, now this is like 3 or 4 guys now that he's battled with through negotiations.
The Bruins have forever, though, like going back to the 70s. To get a contract out of them is a grind.
but you got to evolve. You got to evolve
You
as
have to
management, just like
evolve.
the league does, right? Like it's a different league now. You saw it with Rantanen.
What do you say to? There are a faction of Bruins fans saying 6.3 times 3 or 6.5 times 3 is fair. Like they gave him a fair offer. Or do you think, no, you got to go up to what he wants?
I think if you're putting in sweat equity the way that he has, and you see a guy, and this is no knock on Lindholm, but if you're asking for the same tag for half the term, a little less than half the term, I think, and also walking in and handling your own business and talking to the GM and willing to come down off of what your number is. And what I was going to say there was, I think it's a little short-sighted in the fact that this guy had 3 surgeries in the offseason. Like, if we think that Brad Marchand's game's declined a little bit, well, yeah, he's fucking coming in trying to get his feet stable underneath him after getting those surgeries and you know, being a little bit off. Now he's getting some time off in Florida. He gets to heal up and doesn't need to be the guy there. He just needs to fit in on that insane line, by the way, with Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk, which, I mean, we talk about skill players not having enough pucks on the ice. These guys aren't going to have enough fucking heads to cave in out there. But I just think it's short-sighted because I think he's going to have a little bit of pep in his step to try to prove everybody wrong about the fact that his game isn't on the decline. In fact, he's got a lot more to show. So he'll be soaking up that vitamin D and he'll be back buzzing come playoff time. And
he might be back next game with all this vitamin D.
And what's stopping David Pastrnak from walking into Don Sweeney's office this summer and asking for a trade? He's 28 years old. He's playing the best hockey of his life right now. He doesn't want to be in for a rebuild right now.
And his contract's incredible. It's
Exactly.
11.25.
There are teams that would give an arm and a leg for him. So the trickle-down effect where Boston's always been a desirable destination, is it so much anymore when you see how they treat their captain and you see how they treat players that have been so good to them and played on discounts for years and years and years? I mean, I wouldn't want to sign in Boston right now with Don Sweeney.
I think that
as the
when
GM.
people say that, it's more about like original six, beautiful city, like
Culture.
I feel like desirable place to play. I know you're right. It does have to do with the front office and the team and everything, but I always kind of think of the city and the franchise. But you're right. That's a good point.
Boys, I'm very excited to see him in a Florida Panthers jersey whenever he's back in the lineup. But do you want to shift the focus back out west? Because I was very critical in maybe the way they handled the Rantanen situation, but you alluded to it before the Marchand talk. McFarland deserves hardware for that overhaul from the beginning of the year. They had goaltending issues. They get 2 new goalies. They lock in their goalie of the future for a great deal in Blackwood. They go out and get Lindgren and VC, excuse me. Then they end up snagging Natchez and Drury, who I think is going to be a great 4th liner. And then they not only go out and get Brock Nelson, probably one of the most sought after second liners, where they had to address that need because Mittelstadt just wasn't the guy. And then on top of that, they go out and get Charlie Coyle, who is a perfect 3rd line center for a cup run. This is one of the greatest in-season overhauls I've ever seen. And some people saying, ooh, that's a lot of turnover in 1 year. But the fact that it happened with these little trickle effects where it wasn't all at once, I think it is the perfect spice for that team. And watching that game against the Leafs the other night, I thought I was watching it in fast forward at the pace it was at. That was nuts. Hey, and the fact, too, that they got Nichushkin back, that's like a fucking deadline deal in itself. If he's able to go to the Baza and stay out of the fucking, stay out of whatever he's been getting himself in come playoff time, this is going to be a force to be reckoned with. And as good as the Dallas Stars look, boys, I think in a 7-game series with both teams healthy, I think I'm picking Colorado. I think I'm picking Colorado, and it looks like that's going to be the first round matchup. And not only that storyline, but Rantanen playing against his old team. Like how big
NHL,
of a fucking
baby.
treat is that? This is crazy.
Did you see McFarland's memo that he sent out too? Like he made a press release. Did you see that today?
No.
He's giving permission to every Colorado Avalanche fan to tackle. They can tackle Nichushkin if they see him out and about in the city.
I did see that.
It's in the Colorado
I wouldn't
Post.
try. Did you see how he walked into the game the other
he's a
night, all
monster.
black? I wouldn't go near that guy. That guy is
And then he almost got 4 goals. Him and Nate just look like McDavid and Draisaitl the other night. They're the size and speed on those two. Like if that's your 3-4 coming at you, that is insane to me. Like, what D in the world are going to want to play against those guys? And like you said, if he get him in the Baza now, because they need him.
He looks phenomenal. I don't ever remember a contending team completely flipping their team this much over the course of a season. Actually, Mike Keenan was the coach in New York in '94. They had I think they traded a bunch of guys at the end. Huge deadline when they traded Amonte and like Mike Gartner was on that team maybe, and they brought in all those guys. So who knows if it works for Colorado? Them playing Dallas will just be the ultimate like offense versus defense. Like low scoring games, Dallas is winning the series. High scoring, Colorado is moving on. I think that would be incredible. Now, not only did they get Nelson though, that meant Winnipeg didn't get him. And Winnipeg fans, I think they were I don't think they were, overwhelmed with the deadline. It seems like this is a real chance this year. And Brandon Tanev, who was there before, that's like the perfect playoff style player. But when you're looking at what Dallas and Colorado did, the teams in your division, you're like, thank God we're in first place right now. We're only going to have to play one of them. They got to hold on to that now. But Nelson, for as much as we've chirped Lou, the legend, Lou Lamoriello, he decides to move him. This Cal Ritchie is nasty. Like that was I'm like, oh shit, like they got him. I don't know how that they ended up getting him. And I think to bring him in, it's like Islanders fans got to feel way better. You now have like a true number 1 center prospect. And that's exciting considering Nelson was a UFA and maybe he would have re-signed there, but it was time to get a little younger. But I think now with him as the second-line center in Colorado, and like you said, Biz, the last time Coyle was a third-line center, the Bruins had that team that could have won it all, coulda, shoulda, woulda. It's wild to see what the Central did. And as I watched Edmonton, and we'll get into them in a little bit, and LA didn't do anything, and Vegas sent out the eye emoji at like 250. We're like, no. They didn't really do much. At least it was the Central doing all this as an Oilers fan. Like, yeah, we're going to have to play one of those teams in the conference final, but that was crazy to witness. Crazy.
Not to be too critical of LA. I mean, they did get Kuzmenko, who can, he can provide that offense. They've had a hard time scoring. I think they got one of the worst power plays in the league, or let's say middle of the pack at best. I just don't. Yeah, I thought LA was going to do a little bit more, but they're right up against the cap. So understand that. For Vegas, though, I mean, I think that their deadline deals are just coming back from injury. I mean, once Theodore's back in the lineup, once William Karlsson's back, I mean, you got Eichel Hurdle, who's been lighting the lamp lately, hat trick the other night, and then William Karlsson is your third line center with. Listen, Brandon Saad, he's a gamer. I think that, he's used to those big moments. Who else did they get? Riley Smith, the guy who's comfortable there. He's been brutal, and I don't think he was happy being in Pittsburgh and or New York. I think that going back to Vegas is the perfect fit, and he's a sneaky playoff player as well. So I think between the goaltending and Aiden Hill with that back end and how strong they are up the middle with some very clutch wingers, I don't think that Vegas needed to do much. I don't know why they were trolling online the way that they were. I thought that eye emoji meant they were getting Brad Marchand, but I just think that was trying to fuck with everybody's minds. Who else? Whit, go over to you. Were you happy with what Edmonton did?
I actually was. It's been a weird feeling lately because they've struggled. I think they've won 3 of 4 now, but it's been since 4 Nations. They just looked off. McDavid looked tired. The other night, he was ridiculous. Did you see his goal against Dallas?
Labushkin, I feel bad for him. The big Russian bear.
I was like, this poor bastard. Like, and imagine, Keith, did you ever have a one-on-one against him? Can you think of that? Or were you not on the ice against him?
He was skating forwards.
I usually tried to change when I saw old 97 coming over the bench. But yeah, I don't remember like a straight up one-on-one. But to beat a defenseman one-on-one in any level, no matter who you are, is so hard. But yeah, no, I do remember him coming down on like 2-on-2s, and you just try to hope he takes it wide and shoots it into the goalie's glove.
I just can't imagine the panic, because I mean I had it against Crosby in practice, like no, but in a live game to see that come, and Labushkin's he's the not most fleet of foot man in the NHL. He's just like but his assist, Hyman ended up banging in. It might have gone in anyways. Was probably even better. He's turned it on. So they needed help on D, and they needed a depth guy, right? Well, then you find out that they're in on Rantanen, and it was like, holy shit. Like, I didn't know that before he was traded, but to hear after, it's like, wow, that makes me a little less thrilled with the deadline, considering there was a chance that they could have gotten him. But Wallman's solid. Actually, shout out Mike Greer, who traded for Wallman and got a second rounder just because Detroit wanted to get off his contract. So he took him for free and then got a second round pick and then dealt him for a first round pick. That's kind of masterful GM work by Greersy. Yeah. But he's solid. I mean, first game, he crushes Rantanen in center ice. Enormous hit. He's got a lot of points this year. I said on game notes, the points aren't really going to be there because there'll be no power play time for him.
You know what the biggest thing, though, Whit, is when they're in the offensive zone, and what I noticed with San Jose is when the puck goes to the blue line, he's able to walk the blue line. And he can
make a play.
He can make a play. It's not going there to die and just go fire back down the wall, and all of a sudden it's a 50-50 puck battle. Like, I really respect those D who are able to just find a way to get that lane and throw a sifter through and get it on net through the mixer. So Frederick, obviously, he's a great middle six guy who's going to provide energy, and that's something they've really needed since they lost Holloway. So. I think that they're solid. And another good thing is kind of like a situation like Carolina, where obviously my feelings have changed a little bit since LA didn't really address a lot of their needs and Edmonton did. Probably the easiest of first round matchups for Edmonton now, looking at the way that division's shaken out. No more important positions though right now than first in the Atlantic and first in the Central. That is automatic.
Wait, have you heard what Edmonton would have had to give up for Rantanen, or was it just draft picks? I don't know if that would have changed your mind on whether.
No, that's what I originally was like. What would my first thought was like? What would they even have that Carolina wants that they'd trade? And then you think like, oh, Carolina, maybe they're asking for Bouchard, but even if they were, like, you can't trade him off this team. Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't get. So I actually have no idea. But I mean, the package they got, 2 first rounders, 2 second rounders, and Stankoven. I mean, they weren't going to match that. They didn't have the ability to do that. It is crazy being an Oilers fan, and I need to see the last 18 games, whatever it is. Like, if they get in a rhythm where they were in for 2 months, then it's like, all right, going in, you got some magic, you get some, and you have LA, who you should be able to take care of. But it is hard. Last year they were better, and now you see Broberg and Holloway. It's like, oh my God, like they had both of those guys who played their best hockey of the year in the playoffs. Granted, Broberg wasn't even playing throughout the season, so. I'm still excited. Yeah, I've been very confident of them over LA. Now, they didn't do anything in goaltending, which Bowman kept coming out and saying, like, we're not trading for a goalie. He was pretty clear on that. So we'll see. Skinner's better than I think a lot of people give him credit for, but how much can the big dogs carry you? Last year they did. 2 years in a row doing that might be hard. Still, Oilers, DraftKings, bet them right now to win the cup. With that, boys, there's more to catch up on, but we had the chance to sit down and we talked about Colorado and their Stanley Cup and screwing over Rantanen. Well, one of the biggest parts of that team was Gabriel Landeskog. And there's an incredible documentary following him throughout his journey with this, I don't know how to describe, crazy knee surgery he had to get. And We had the chance to sit down with him, talk about the decision he made to have camera crews follow him around in his kind of battle and journey to get back playing. And we're going to throw it over to him right now. The legend himself, Cup champ, captain of the Avalanche, Landeskog. Guys, it's Whit, and I want to talk about Sport Clips. Sport Clips isn't just where you get your haircut. It's your playbook for looking fresh, feeling good, being confident, all because of Sport Clips. Walk in, catch the game. It's nice, you know. You can have your favorite team play while having your hair shampooed and cut to perfection at Sport Clips. I mean, that's a win-win-win-win unless your team loses. And you can just sit back. You get everything handled. They take care of everything. No stress, relaxing, and being able to walk in and do that is perfect. And when you're done, you walk out feeling like you're ready to take on anything. There's no hassles, no surprises, just a solid cut every time. It's simple, it's easy, and it's made for guys who want to feel like they've got the home field advantage. And if you want to track your real-time wait times, download the app and check in online. Sport Clips, the haircut experience, dialed in for guys. It's a game changer. Guys, we need to talk about DraftKings. DraftKings, the NHL season is nuts. It's been crazy, and it just got a whole lot crazier after the trade deadline. And now is where you can get involved with DraftKings. Nobody knows where this season's headed, but that just means that there's plenty of time for your favorite team to figure things out. And games left for you to get in the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. We mentioned on the show, Zach Werenski, 75-1 to win the MVP. Leon Draisaitl, -150. If you've never made a bet, that could be your first bet. Right now, the NHL is the fastest game on ice, and you can make fast live bets during any game on the DraftKings Sportsbook. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on anything as simple as just a team to win. You want to start there? You want to start with props, or you want to start with a live bet after your favorite team goes down 1-0? It's up to you. It's on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code Chiclets. That's code Chiclets for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. It's an honor to now be joined by the captain of the Colorado Avalanche, Stanley Cup champ, Rookie of the Year almost 14 years ago, Gabe Landeskog. What's going on, buddy?
What's going on? Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
What a hairline, eh, Whit?
I know. It's
Holy
crazy.
shit, what a hairline.
Crazy. And then we're watching the first episode of the documentary that we're going to talk about. My wife's like, and he has no accent. He's from Sweden. I'm like, settle down. I couldn't even tell you that we're interviewing you. But dude, I watched the first episode. Incredible. I can't wait to get into it. How are you feeling right now, though? Most importantly.
Yeah, you know what? I feel good. It's been such a crazy roller coaster, and just when you think I'm kind of careful on saying what speaking on really how I feel, because it just changes day to day and week to week so much. But I'm feeling good. We're skating right now and progressing that part of it. Obviously, kind of the activities of daily living and being the kind of getting back to the baseline of things happened fairly early on in the rehab. But I think I said it in episode 1, where it's like the gap between being a healthy human and just a regular person that wants to exercise and walk around with his kids, that and NHL player is pretty big. So, but we're getting there.
Gabe, it's when we talked to you on TNT, like just the way that you're talking, it's been a grind, just like mentally and physically. And this is something the documentary is going to show. When did you decide to document the whole thing? When did that kind of click in your mind to show the world what's going on right now?
I think it was pretty quickly after surgery. I realized, like, geez, this isn't going to be easy, and this is going to be a long ride. So why not just kind of start documenting some of this? Some of it I'm probably not going to remember in 6 months. So I wanted to kind of see what that was going to feel like and see if it was going to be worth doing. And we just kind of started on a whim and started getting AJ and the camera around, and then we kept it going. Didn't really know where it was going to go, but I think the idea behind starting it was just, the first part of rehab is just kind of it's such a grind, and you're in a lot of pain, and all you guys know that's had surgeries. It's not fun, and but knowing that it was 18 months plus of it, I knew it was going to be a heck of a ride, and wanted to try to capture as much as possible, and just to kind of, I guess, be an inspiration to other people. I guess to be to somebody else what Andy Murray's documentary Resurfacing was to me. It got me through a pretty tough time there for a handful of months, and I just felt like, man, I can relate to him. I can relate to everything he's saying. I can relate to what he's going through, the decision he's got in front of him. And I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's a good show, and I wanted to just document it, see where it takes us. I never thought we'd be here 2.5 years later, and and have this coming out, but here we are.
You talk about the Andy Murray. Is there anyone else that you've leaned on that kind of has? I mean, obviously, it's a freak injury that probably not a lot of people have gone through. But have you leaned on anybody else to help you get through these tough times?
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's a secret anymore. Lonzo Ball went through very similar surgery by the same surgeon. He had a little bit different. He had some other stuff going on, and I had a couple other things, but essentially the same. You're getting a plug in the cartilage in your knee from a cadaver. So it's a pretty invasive surgery. So Lonzo and he helped me kind of make my decision, to be honest. He was about a month or 6 weeks before me. So we've touched base throughout the process, but in terms of athletes that have gone through it, you talk to, for me, just mostly kind of my support system, the people around me and teammates and close family and friends and my treatment people and trainers. Those guys have been great. I was doing a lot of rehab in Philadelphia with Bill Knowles. If you guys are familiar, he's done a lot of NFL guys and athletes all around the world. And funny enough, anybody that walks into that gym, they're broken and they're not in a good spot if you're walking into there. So got to know a handful of guys, Australian rugby players, Premier League soccer players. You don't know them from before, and they live in different parts of the world, but on a kind of basic athlete level, that's in a bad spot. You can relate to them in a lot of ways. So it was, gotten to know some cool people, but most importantly, my family and the close circle around me has been huge.
I sense watching, and you bring up your family, like how difficult that must have been. Your FaceTime and the kids, and you're grinding through this while not being able to be at home for a decent amount of time. So I think watching also that and kind of how you've approached it all with remaining positive and the journaling, you laugh at while you're reading your journal, like that had to help. I mean, people have often said writing down things make you feel better. Has that been a big part of it too? Actually writing everything down, forget the cameras being around?
Oh yeah. And I mean, to be honest, like the camera, I mean, it's been coming up on 2 years here in May since surgery. So the camera's been around, he's been around for kind of key moments. And, sometimes you want to make sure you cover this aspect of it or something that you do a lot. You want to cover it, I guess. But it's still only, even though it's 5 episodes of 25 minutes, it's still just such a small sample size of it. Journaling for me started right after we won the cup, essentially. Like September 2022, I looked myself in the mirror, was like, the fuck is going on? I really need to take this thing seriously now and figure out what is happening. Before the cup run, I'd had a small scope and we cleaned it out and we didn't rush the rehab, but we had 6 weeks. So we did what we could in that time. And then, playoff starts and bang, you go. That fall of 2022, I didn't really know what was up, what was down, where to go, where to turn. I really didn't want to do this surgery. I was not ready to just coming off hoisting it and then, be on the shelf for a year or year and a half, and nobody had done it. So it just felt like, man, I was just right up here and now we're going way down at the bottom. And it was, I talk about it and, the identity piece and all of a sudden you're outside of the team and you're by yourself, and then you're doing rehab and the rehab's not doing anything. And you're just like, well, yeah, I can go along and pretend as much as I want, but when things quiet down and I'm by myself at home and I'm like thinking about really what the future looks like, it was kind of scary, but journaling was huge for me and started doing that. Just kind of word vomit, honestly, just write it all out there, create some, kind of create a little bit of distance between yourself and your thoughts, and talking to people have helped. Not many people can really relate to what you're going through, I guess. And I think that's why I really benefited from having, going to Bill Knowles, seeing him, talking to some of the other guys there and relating on that level. So, support, I can't speak highly enough of it. Like when I just get wrapped up in my own head, I'm sure you guys know what it's like when you just like, I don't need help. I'm just going to handle it myself. That's the way you've always done it. But for me, it just kept getting worse that way. So I started trusting the people around me and talking to them. And I'm like, man, I'd come home to my wife and just be like, I'm having a shitty day today. Like just kind of give me a second and I'm trying to figure out what's next. And just stuff like that would really help us in our relationship and our marriage and trying to raise two little rugrats. So that's been a big part of it.
Gabe, I was just going to go back to the original injury for people who haven't like really heard the story. Like I remember when I heard you were out with a knee, like you always assume it's like an ACL or whatever. You just read knee, right? But from watching the trailer, it was a cut that you sustained.
Yep.
And I want to say maybe it was in the bubble. Mm-hmm. And then something that was obviously stitched up. You think it's a quad cut. You stitch it up. You play through it as we all do. And then it was something that kind of kept bothering you and lingering on, and it kept getting worse and worse and worse. So take us kind of through the timeline, how the original injury happened and kind of like what you had to do afterward.
Yeah. I mean, freak accident in the bubble where, game 6 against Dallas where Cale kind of gets pushed from behind and he falls down. And as he's falling down, I think he's turning around and his skate just kind of comes up and cuts me right on the quad. We were worried about the quad tendon being ruptured at first, but that turned out to not be the case. And it turned out to be just kind of a laceration across, we thought it was just originally skin, I guess, because the quad tendon was intact, but it turned out that the vastus lateralis, which is the muscle that runs along the side of your quad, had been nicked. And so we did some PRP on that to help heal that. So 3 rounds of that finally helped. And then I was back for training camp that next COVID shortened season. And I keep in mind, like I'd never had knee issues before the bubble. And then it started kind of during that COVID shortened season, 2021, it started bugging me a little bit, but not that bad. And you just kind of manage it. And then it was the following fall, kind of the fall of 2021, where it started bugging me and then grinded through the first half of that season before we did the first scope to clean it out. And then 20 games of playoff hockey will do some damage.
Incredibly, you had 22 points. Like you were over a point per game. You're playing injured. And in the first episode, you talk how it finally got feeling real good. And I don't know, that was after the scope, I'm assuming, right before playoffs. And I think you said you stepped on the ice for like one of the first games and you're like, oh my God. Like you had to play that whole playoff in brutal pain. And then it's almost like you're able to just push it aside. You played unreal, you win it. And then not only is it the come down from, winning it all, but it's like, now I got to start doing this. That was probably the most difficult thing.
And what was the pain like? What was the feeling like?
Yeah, it's sharp. It's sharp. I mean, it's like, I keep saying it's like somebody's putting a knife like in behind your kneecap. And you can, if you're standing straight, you're good. And if you're on 2 legs, you're good. But to bend my right leg in this case, and to get any sort of flexion on one leg, there's no chance. I couldn't do it. If I was kind of on both legs, I could do it. And it obviously is painful, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm the only one that plays through pain in the playoffs. Like you guys know what it's like. So everybody goes through it. And I didn't think during the playoff run, I was going to sit here 2.5 years later. I really didn't. I knew it was going to put some damage on it, but I'm like, I'll deal with it later. It's like, just let's get through this. We knew what a heck of a team we had, and we knew what an opportunity we had, and didn't want to miss that opportunity. And I didn't want to have any regrets. And, I just really had to figure it out afterwards. And kind of after that partying stops after, a few weeks, And I get back in the gym thinking, okay, I just need to, add some strength. I just need to get the inflammation down, and I just need this, that. But it took a long time, and then come to realize we really need that big surgery after all.
Being an athlete and hockey player, especially, guys are always like, I'll like you said, I'll figure this out down the road. What was the conversation when you had to have with your trainers to kind of go back and revisit it and look at and get it scoped? Was that kind of something that you had to bring to them, or was it you guys were on the same page the whole time?
Yeah, like how many opinions did you end up getting?
Right.
A lot. But in the fall of 2022, and this is like how my mind's working. It's like my whole injury history now is like just there are these like key dates, right? So excuse me if I keep repeating the dates, but in the fall of 2022, I think it was the start of September, I go to Chicago and I go to Minnesota to get two different opinions. And in Chicago was Dr. Brian Cole, who's ultimately ended up doing my cartilage transplant. And he flat out told me, and I was going in there ready for him to say like, oh, we can clean this up. Like we can give you a better shot at this to skate pain-free. But I remember him looking at me and just being like, man, there's a lot of damage in there. And now you have two options. Option number one is you do a scope, try to clean it up, you do rehab, you take your time with it, you add the strength you need, you do this, you do that. And then if it's an acceptable kind of level, you can play at an acceptable level to you and to your team, and you can kind of, almost in a way, like if you can just suck up and play, do it. But if you can't, he's like, your only other option, your only other hope is doing an osteochondral allograft with a tibial tubercle osteotomy. And the tibial tubercle osteotomy is when they cut your shin bone, like the top of your tibia, which is that little bump that you have under your knee. And mine's even bigger now because they like pulled it forward to create more room inside the joint. And I'm sitting there September. I'm like, I'm not ready.
What?
Yeah, I'm not ready to write off the next year and a half. I didn't feel like I'd given the first rehab like that much of a chance, given that we jumped into the playoffs playing every other day. And granted, I didn't practice in the playoffs. I just kind of waited for the games. But nonetheless, it's like a lot of hockey and it's a lot of crashing and banging, obviously. But so we ended up getting doing the other route, went to Minnesota, did another scope. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take however many months it takes to like get my rehab right this time. And then we get into like month 2 and I'm like, there's no relief, like not at all. Like that was normally like month 2, you're supposed to be able to kind of get on the ice after a scope like that. There was no shot. And that's really when I started struggling, when I didn't see much hope. And here we are like December of 2022. And, you're still, I was still around the team, and you don't want to be that guy to drag everybody down into your thing. But same time, guys are wondering how you're doing. They're worried about you and whatnot. But so I ended up going back to Toronto for a bit, and then went to Philadelphia, started rehabbing there. Saw a little bit of improvement with Bill's training, but at the same time, it's like Bill always said, with the cartilage injury and the lesion that you have behind your kneecap, he's like, the pothole's already there. Like there's not much you can do with that. So yeah, then I skated a bit, kind of started that New Year's 2023 there, February or something, and then come right around as the guys were heading into the playoffs. We were facing Seattle that year, first round. I was right as I was traveling with Seattle to the team. I was having that's when I really started doing a lot of research into the surgery and talking to people. And I would talk to quote unquote, like normal people that have had it and ask them about their journey and whatnot. So, yeah, ended up settling on that. And actually at that point I was kind of getting excited. I'm like, sweet, there's some hope. There might be a solution to this. But you don't realize like how long the road actually is and how many ups and downs there are.
I actually I know it sounds crazy, but I know how you feel. I had an osteotomy on my foot and how crazy it is where you're actually cutting like a piece of the bone out. And so I know when you talk about that feeling of just like, oh, it's not getting better. Like it's devastating. And then what you say too is so true, like of having some hope, like, all right, I'm into this surgery. And now it's like, all right, after this, I'm going to feel better. So since all the rehab, since the big surgery that you had, like what has been like your best moment, right? Like what is, because you need wins along the way. Like if you had moments you look back on, you're like, all right, yes, like I'm feeling something. I'm feeling alive again, per se, when it comes to my career and what I love to do.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some really good skates. Like I've had some really good skates where I'm like, okay, just get me out there. Just put me out there right now. Get me in the lineup. I'm ready. And then it's such a delicate thing where it's like there's so many components. And then, it goes to, at one point, it wasn't even about the knee. It was about the quad and like kind of my neurological damage that was done after that cut. And then you play on it. So your muscles in your body, the way it moves, kind of, it compensates, right? And getting rid of old compensation patterns. And there's so many delicate things, but there's definitely been skates where I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I can, if it stays like this, I'm good. But you got to keep training, and you can't go from here to playing. You got to kind of earn every step. And that's what we're trying to do. And I think we're getting closer. We keep trending in the right direction. And obviously there's a lot of work to do still, but I'm excited about where we're at. And yeah.
Did you so you had 22 points in playoffs when you weren't practicing?
I mean, it's what Joe Sakic always says. He's like, rest really is the weapon. And I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. There's the playoffs. You're running on adrenaline. And for me, it's just like the extra practice was not worth it for me when I wasn't feeling good. And obviously in games, you get that adrenaline pumping completely different than you are going up and down the ice doing drills. So you just kind of do what it takes. And I think that I'm no different than a lot of other guys that way.
What were you taking? Advil? A little deep cold on a rub there?
Yeah, a little.
Maybe a Bud Kilmer special?
That's it.
Before the games?
A little ice pack before to freeze it up.
You'd shut your mouth if you knew it was good for you.
It's so like when you're playing, you just never want to practice, especially the dog days of the year. But now you're probably like, would do anything to be out there with the guys, right?
And you know what? That's 100% true. But also there's so many things like that. Not just the practicing, but it's just like pregame meals on the road that you eat 41 times and eventually you eat the same thing. But like I would die to go in there and see that spread right now. Or just to get like the dinners on the road and just, I don't know, the shitty practice drinks you go to on the road sometimes, like all that stuff that you really don't, all the stuff that you just naturally take for granted because you do it so much. But man, I miss it. I miss the guys, the camaraderie. Obviously I'm around a lot, but you're not in the heat of the battle. The moments in the locker room, the travel, all the good stuff. But also like just, I don't know, just to compete, just being in there and competing and actually, sitting across the room from somebody and you're trying to accomplish the same thing as he is. And you might be doing it differently, but you're all pulling on the rope in the same way. And I think that compete with that team aspect. I mean, as you guys would know, there's not much out there that does the same thing as that does for you.
So you mentioned you're still around, but like, are you at every game? Are you at practices? Like, are you still around that much?
Yeah, I'm around, but I wouldn't say I go to every game. Try to go as much as I can and when kind of the schedule allows it. But a lot of the time I'm at the rink early the next day. You go to the game, you're not in bed until 11:30. So it's just a little bit counterproductive that way at times. But I try to kind of align my schedule so I'm at the rink with the guys. But at the same time, it's kind of overlap a little bit, and maybe I'm just finishing when those guys are getting in, or maybe I'm starting right as they're getting out. At times when I haven't been feeling good, physically and mentally for that matter, like I don't necessarily always want to be there when the guys are there because it
hurts more.
Yeah, it hurts more. You realize where you're missing. You're out on kind of the inside talk, the inside jokes, you're out on all that. You haven't been there. And it's just same reason I don't always watch the games is because when I wasn't doing well, I'm like, I can't relate to, like, I'm so far from that right now. But then when you're doing better and you're like, man, you kind of get that itch again and you start paying attention more closely and seeing what's going on. But I remember that first ball when that 23-24 season started after my surgery, I was trying to like actually sit down and watch the games. Like I was trying to take notes, who's playing well, who's not, what are the lines. trying to stay like mentally fresh, but I'm like, man, this is not enjoying this. I'm like, I'm sitting here like immobilized, trying to just gain some strength in my quad and monitor swelling, things like that. It's just like, I'm like, it's a different life right now. And one day I'll be able to do that, but it wasn't at that point. Now I'm excited about where we're at as a team. I go to the games as much as I can. Yeah, I'm excited about what's next. Excited about where I can take this thing.
How much are you talking to Nate? And I was going to ask, I think it's pretty well documented that, you know, when he's in his intense moods, that you're the calming effect, or were when you were in the locker room. How much do you miss that? And how proud are you to see what he's been able to accomplish the last couple of years? Because he's elevated his game to where I think that a lot of people could argue he's the best player in the world. I mean, he's going to probably win another MVP. Did last year. Like, it's remarkable what he's been able to accomplish.
He got rid of the dead weight on his left side. He just flourished.
Brandon,
both him and
he's on the right hands.
Well, and even that first year after, both him and Mikko were having career years. So I started getting low.
You're like, hey, guy, you're sending the
don't
wave
forget about me.
emoji.
But I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I get a front row seat to what Nate's doing, and I can't say I'm surprised. I see how much he puts into it. It's a pretty clear reflection of what he gets out of it, and how dedicated. Obviously, that's not a secret. But just his will to continue to get better, and, you know, whatever. He had 140 points, and he's still tweaking his stick pattern. And he's still getting new gloves, trying it all out. He's just like, he's always looking to get better. There's not a stone that he's not going to turn. And for me, getting to watch the guys, and it hasn't been easy at times. It's been a bumpy road, you know, with a lot of turnover since I last played. I think there's maybe 8 guys left, 9 guys left, but I wish I could be in there. And it's like one thing to talk leadership and whatnot, and maybe what I bring, but it might sound selfish to say this, but I'm so balls deep into kind of saving my career and trying to get back as a hockey player that, like, being a leader to the guys hasn't been kind of an option for me for a long time. You know, it wasn't. And at the same time, I mean, what am I going to say? I haven't played in 3 years. Am I going to walk in there and do a rah-rah and say, guys, now change this, F1 needs to do that? Like, I don't know. I don't think there's a whole lot of weight to that necessarily. Obviously, I'm around and I'm talking to guys and checking in on everybody, but I think it's allowed guys like Nate and Kale and Taser and a lot of these guys around the room to kind of get out of their comfort zone a little bit. I think that's what happens. It's never a one-man show. It's always by committee. I think guys can contribute with in a lot of different ways, but it's allowed everybody to take a step, you know, kind of out of their comfort zone a bit.
I'm sure you're sick of talking about all this stuff, and that's why you're doing the documentary. But before we move on, I know you have a young family. Is it important for them to see you go through this grind and, you know, get back to where you were, and, you know, just them seeing the hard work you put in?
Well, like, I think to me it's important to show it to them, but at the same time, I remind myself all the time, like, they're 5 and 4 now. They were a year and a bit and 2.5 when we won, when I last played. I don't think a 4 and a 5-year-old are walking around thinking, oh, how hard's daddy working today? Or, like, is he striving towards his goals? Or is he getting closer? Like, is he facing adversity? Like, they're obviously not, but I think I'm not doing it for Gabe today or for my kids today. I'm like, it's down the road, right? When, like, they might realize the lesson maybe, and myself, like, I'm like, fuck, I started it, you know, I'm going to keep going. And I, you know, I mentioned this the other day to somebody. I used to always think that, like, success and winning and getting past this part of this injury and, like, getting through, I guess, on the other side has always just been one scenario. And, like, it's just, yeah, if you can come back and play and finish your contract, that's what it looks like. But I think I've realized during this journey, it's like, I don't know, I'm still going at it. Like, it's been 2.5 years. Like, in my book, I'm already kind of winning. Like, I think a lot of people would have called it by now, and I've had it, you know, I made enough money to call it and whatnot and be happy. And I've got a great family and whatnot. It just, but to me, that fire just kind of inside is still there, and I started it. I want to keep going, and I've committed to it. So obviously the kids, I want to be able to see them on the glass of a warm up again, and I'll continue working and we'll see where it takes me.
Do you bring your mind to the future at all, as if like, and not to be negative, like if it were not to work out and you weren't be able to play, you say like right now you really miss that compete, right? Like, would you ever maybe want to get into being a GM or a coach to kind of get back in that environment that you miss so much? And I don't mean to I hope you're able to accomplish your goal of coming back. It's just like, I don't know if you've thought about if it's not a possibility.
Well, I've thought about it. I've had plenty of time to think about it, but I think, I don't know. I used to push those thoughts aside, and I'm sure you guys will hear more about this when you watch this thing, but it's like, I used to push them aside and just ignore them. And I'm like, no, I'm not ready for that. But that's so much time. You obviously have entertained it. There's a bunch of things, even outside of hockey, that interest me. And I don't know exactly what that is, but I've at least allowed myself to explore it in my mind, and we'll see. But obviously hockey is like, it's what I've done since I was 5 years old, right? Like that's kind of all you know. And yeah, you pay attention in school, but that's always been secondary. And like hockey, you just think, and obviously, as I mentioned before, like you take it for granted. It's there as you work through it, you get through injuries, and you just assume there's always like the other side. And I know I'm fortunate. And I also know there's a lot of, like, not many guys get to go out the way they want to. Like, I'm very aware of that. And I think that's a reality that that you see firsthand all the time. And but I think we always tell ourselves, no, it's going to go this way. You're going to finish your contract. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And then you're going to just sit there and you're going to say, no, that's it. But, I don't think just because you're entertaining other things means you're checked out by any means. I'm still very committed to what I'm doing, but I've been in the gym just about 6 days a week for almost 3 years. It's like, I can't always be thinking about my knee. And I think I was at the start, and it just made me exhausted. And I felt like I was missing out on life for a while. And just like social life went to shit, and my wife was like, are we ever going to see other people, or are we just going to hang out here and watch you do your modalities all night? Like it just became so strict that I had to let go a little bit. I had to kind of loosen the straps a bit of just like, I can't just keep living and breathing this, because it gets exhausting and I'm going to burn the candle on both ends. So I had to loosen up, and I think that helped from a mindset a bit.
It's great to hear that the mindset's changed. Yeah, it can just weigh you down, but you're also thinking like, I need to be like this if I'm going to make it back. But it leads here. We get the last question, Gabe, presented by Roback. Use the code Chiclets on roback.com for a generous 20% off your first purchase through the end of this week. That's CHICLETS on RHOBACK.com. 20% off all hoodies, joggers, and more with code Chiclets. EJ, he's back. We were talking about it before the interview. It was hilarious how Nate's like, yeah, I don't know how much he's going to play, but it's awesome having him back. But, I mean, how cool is that for you? I mean, a good buddy, you won a cup with him. Were you excited? And have you chatted with him since he got traded back there from Philly?
Oh, yeah. He was bugging me for, right away, making sure that I was aware of what we had just done. And obviously very exciting. And he's, throughout the last couple of years, he's always checked in, and he's always paid attention to how our team's doing, how we're doing, how his friends are doing. But it's kind of crazy. Like, I walked into the gym the other day, and he's sitting on a bike. I'm like, what the fuck? How did you get back here? And how I wanted the equipment staff just to fuck with him, but give him a shitty training camp number, like, I don't know, 50. Give him something in the 50s. But
that would have been amazing.
Yeah, it's good to have him back. He's loved by the Avs faithful, and I think he brings a lot to our team. I think, that his personality and it's never a bad day type of thing. I think it'll be good for us. And yeah, we'll see. I think he's still got some less in the tank too.
Gabe, thank you so much for like coming on and talking about this and like, sharing your journey and what you've been able to experience throughout the process. If I were to ask one more, how much of an appreciation do you have for like the physio people and the surgeons and all the people you've been able to work with at a professional level? Like, it's crazy where it's the science and everything's gotten, and they really care.
Yeah, Biz, it's such a, thank you for bringing that up, because it's like you don't realize how much goes into it. And a lot of these people that, I guess so many people that have been in my corner and helped me from kind of day one, but it's a lot. It's a lot that goes into it. And obviously my schedule is somewhat irregular at times. And that means their schedule is irregular at times. And they put in the extra work and it really is a team effort. And from going from being strictly a guy that's in the room and you got your 23 teammates in a circle, and now you almost have to pivot, like, okay, this is my team now. And it's my wife and it's my dad and it's my trainer and treatment and a coach, right? So that becomes your team. And those are the people that you almost you talk to them more than you talk to your teammates, and you just have to lean on them. So that's been, I got so many people to thank, and it's been, they know who they are, and it's been a treat, and it's been a long journey, but we still got work to do.
You being a beloved guy around the league, and I know everybody's, wishing you back as quick as possible. And, you're missed out there on the ice for sure. But what'd you think of the Rantanen deal? That's what Biz wanted me to ask you.
I wrote in the chat because I said I got my last question, and I'm like, please ask about Rantanen. You know who the real winner in all this is? Ross.
Yeah.
He got a Rolex and his number back.
That is nice. I don't know. I got to square it up on Saturday. The Stars come into town on Sunday, so we're going to take Mikko out. We're going to air it all out. But I love Mikko. Mikko's like a Finnish little brother to me, and it just I obviously wish we still had him, but I understand there's a business, and I understand it was a great chance for him to get paid. I get it. But he's got a lot of dough. He's got a lot of dough. Can't argue that.
He better be paying for dinner.
Who's picking up the tab? McFarland and Sakic or Rantanen?
Mikko will be paying for it. Yeah.
Biz, notice how he said his Finnish little brother.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, buddy, you're a legend. Best of luck in your journey continuing, and we hope to see you back on the ice.
Yeah, I think that I know you said, what are you going to go in there and give a rah-rah speech without, playing and being in the battle every night? Dude, I'm not on that team, but if you came in and talked to that group, I can't imagine how fired up they'd be.
Oh my God.
It would be electric.
I was ready to run through the wall listening to what he's dealt with.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, good luck, man. Guys, did you know that Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the United States with thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers? 2 million happy customers. And the biggest online nursery in the United States. They have all the plants your yard needs, like fruit trees, privacy trees, flowering trees, shrubs, and so much more. Whatever plants you're interested in, Fast Growing Trees has you covered. Find the perfect fit for your climate and your space. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to get your dream yard. Order online and get your plants delivered directly to your door in just a few days without ever leaving home. You could sit on the couch, you could pick out which trees you want that'll make your yard look perfect, and then you can order them and they get delivered. That's Fast Growing Trees. Their Alive and Thrive guarantee ensures your plants arrive happy and healthy. Plus, get support from trained plant experts on call to help you plan your landscape, choose the right plants, and learn how to care for them. The fact that Fast Growing Trees became a sponsor of this show, as maybe a day before or a day after, my wife and I said, we need some trees for the backyard. We got to get some privacy trees. And boom, all of a sudden, Fast Growing Trees, it was a sign. I'm so lucky. It's been so easy. Anyone who needs anything for their yard, shrubs, trees, it doesn't matter. Get to Fast Growing Trees. It's so simple, so easy. And this spring, they have their best deals for your yard. Up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to our show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code Chiclets at checkout. That's an additional 15% off fastgrowingtrees.com. Use the code Chiclets at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code Chiclets. Now's the perfect time to plant. Use Chiclets to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. Guys, we are so lucky to be sponsored by Body Armor. That's what we got to talk about right now. The best water in the world. Gee, I need you to go into how many Flash IVs from Body Armor you've drank or drunk, whatever the word may be, since Brad Marchand got traded.
I've gone through about 3 of these packs of the sticks, the 6 packs of sticks. The lemon lime is incredible. And
That's
then
my favorite flavor.
the cucumber lime. This is my new favorite. I mean, I was a big fruit punch guy before, but I am just crushing these Flash IVs after just Brad Marchand and the Bruins ripped my heart out.
Yeah, I've never seen it proved medically that heartache from losing your favorite player and your captain can be fixed through Body Armor Flash IV or any IV. But I think you're proof because you don't look that bad for the heartbreak you've taken.
I feel great.
Okay, that's because of Body Armor Flash IV. It's packed with electrolytes, provides faster and stronger lasting hydration. No artificial flavors, sweeteners, or dyes. None of that crap. All good things and great tasting flavor. Strawberry and kiwi, tropical punch. Body Armor Flash IV gives your body the rehydration it needs to recover. Get yours at a local 7-Eleven or on Amazon today. Thank you so much to Gabriel Landeskog. Hopefully he's able to make it back. What a story that will be. I watched the first episode. It's great. Everyone check that out when you're able to. We should stay in Colorado quickly because Erik Johnson traded back. Pretty cool story. I mean, he won the Stanley Cup there. He spent so many years as a member of the Avs, and he was so thrilled. I mean, I think, Biz, what did you say he said?
Oh, he goes, whatever they need from me at my age. It's 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, fuck. If they need me to shovel the ice between TV timeouts, I'll do it. So that's the type of attitude from a wily veteran who's comfortable in that locker room and a guy who, you know, if he gets thrown in as that 5'6", you know, at any point, I think he could really calm things down and adds a great sense of humor as well. So very happy for him. And he had some great comments to say about Jonesy, Briere, and everybody in Philadelphia, and not only how he was treated, but his time there. So just a classy guy and a guy that you want, you know, kind of like a Luke Shen, right? Like a salt of the earth character guy who you're going to need in a long playoff run in case he needs to get thrown in the mix. So as you said, very, very happy for him and a great move for them.
Because you know in playoffs, like there's going to be some injuries to your back end. Guys are getting hit every shift. You bring him in as a 7 guy, he can play, like he said, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's like what they did. They did it with Jack Johnson, bringing in a veteran guy. I love that deal, and everything I've heard about Big Horn, as they call him, is great stuff, and bringing him into a group that he's familiar with, and especially with a guy like Nate who's wound tight and, you know, always in that, you know, let's go get it mode. He can probably take a little bit off of him, especially in the locker room, obviously not on the ice, but yeah, I think it's a great deal, and I think he's going to help them out.
I actually got a text from them the other night. They went out and celebrated, not hard, but celebrated McKinnon's 100th point of the season. He had 3 against the Leafs and hit that mark. So, yeah, definitely going to add that character in the locker room and unwind Nate to the perfect tone.
Nate
had
March,
and they're celebrating the 100 points.
I think that it was his 999th career point too. So he's one more to 1,000. And you see his quotes. I think he was asked about Erik Johnson. He's like, yeah, I don't know how much he's going to play, but it's just so nice having him back. Just straight to the fact. Yeah, EJ, fill up my water bottle. Yeah. EJ, he'll still text me sometimes, are you wearing a thong? He fucked with me the whole Olympics. He's like 14 years younger than me, just torturing me. Something about a thong, I still don't get the joke. I'm going to call the PA for bullying. Like him and Patrick Kane. You wearing a thong with something? I'm like, I still don't know the joke, boys.
Oh,
but
no, is there a rumor out there?
I think we talked about it with him, but I don't remember. Shout out my brain. Guys, let's go back to the East. Brady Tkachuk.
Oh, my
God.
What
a weekend. He had some heartbreak. One of his best friends, one of his closest, people in his life, Josh Norris, gets traded over to Buffalo for Dylan Cozens. Not super surprising deal with Cozens moving, but Norris, it was kind of out of nowhere. I mean, I think people on the inside knew. I heard after, like, his name had been out there, but you could tell the emotion for him just based on the interview he did, where he's fighting back tears. Like, that's how much this guy meant to him. And you wonder what'll happen moving forward, but didn't slow him down in the games this weekend, Biz.
No, I thought I actually really liked the move for Ottawa. And, Dylan Cozens came over and he goes, I think, towards the end of my time in Buffalo, he lost a little bit of his bite to his game. And you saw in the past where he's sticking up for teammates. And I think Ray Ferraro was pretty hard on the other night. I think it was maybe Darlene who got ran and maybe a lack of response. But I think that, playing in Buffalo can take the spirits out of anybody's game. And I really think that his love and passion and bite will be rejuvenated in that second line center role come Ottawa. And also, like, they have obviously a better culture. They obviously have other guys there that can take the focus off of him. So I like the upside actually better for Ottawa in this trade. And also the fact, and no disrespect to Norris, but he's had 3 shoulder surgeries, right? So he has had a little bit of the injury bug. So you're getting maybe a guy with a better, healthier track record than Norris. And a guy who's already locked in for, I think, another, 4 or 5 years at a pretty good number. So an incredible game by Brady to follow up that emotional press conference, though. He scores the first goal of the game for them to cut the lead to 2-1. And then, all of a sudden it's 3-1. They mount the comeback, goes to overtime, and Stützle slides it over. Brady Tkachuk with an unreal celly, and then more post-game comments on the mic in front of the crowd. They're chanting his name, Brady, Brady. He's like, you guys got me going. And they're just all fucking jerking their cocks off, fucking loving their captain. So they got to get in playoffs, because if I'm them and their fan base, I get nervous as hell at the fact that if they don't, and then next year doesn't start out the right way, it can't end up like Matthew. You can't lose. You're
on a day of celebration, you're throwing out it. You're throwing it out.
You can't.
Join me, Biz. Join me.
No. I'm not. Listen, I think that the culture has been established. I think Travis Green has done an exceptional job. I think this team's headed in the right direction. Jans, you said they're not going to make playoffs. Bullshit. I think they're going to make playoffs.
I think they're a lock to make playoffs. I know Senators fans don't want to hear that. I think they're a lock to get in.
I think they're going to make playoffs, and this is going to be the turn of things to come, and I think they're going to be in good shape. So that's good news for Sens Nation, and they got to be very, very optimistic despite, I would say, probably right before Four Nations, things were getting off the rails a little bit again, and who knows? They were in limbo there, but their captain's happy. He's playing at the top of his game, 26 goals. And wait, I think you touched on it a few pods ago. Like, there was a period of time where I don't think he had a goal for like 10, 15 games, but it didn't matter. He was still bringing energy. He was still contributing in other areas, but now he's back to scoring, and they're looking great and poised for playoffs. So good news, Sens Nation.
I just think of that press conference that Brady had, showing his emotion, and it really just proves to me how, and we all know this because we know who he is, but it just proves how good of a leader he is, how good of a teammate, a friend he is. Like, that's the worst part about the game is the trades, you losing your friends, especially your close friends like that. It's brutal, but what a gamer, just showing up and doing what he's supposed to do like he does every single night, puts the team on his back, gets him a huge win. I said they weren't going to make the playoffs. I want them to. I really want Brady in the playoffs. The league needs him in the playoffs. We saw what he brought during Four Nations. You've been seeing him in the media now. He's a household name. So I think the league needs him in the playoffs. Hopefully they can get it done. It's one of those things where it needs to get done, because if they don't, then they could be saying sayonara, Brady.
Don't say it.
If we get, you just said it first. If we get Dallas, Colorado, and somehow Florida, Ottawa in the first round, I'm going to say, listen, Bree, you're going to see me on that couch from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. And then you're not going to see me until 7 p.m. the next night. And I'm going to they can't have them play on the same night. Although I guess it'd be East-West. Yeah, you could tell.
The Tkachuk stock right now, it's like NVIDIA stock during fucking the shutdown, during the lockdowns. This is what these guys and their old man are doing for the league, and the attention that they're drawing to it, along with not only on ice play, but these fucking press conferences and media scrums. It's remarkable. Like, these guys have helped the league out so much, man. It's I don't know how they do it. WWE rock stars.
I remember when in Long Island, Armies talked about it when he got traded for Hossa. Him, Eric Christensen, and I think it was prospect, first rounder, huge deal for Hossa and Pascal Dupuis. That was my first time thinking like, oh, like a good buddy, he's gone. Sure as shit, the next year was me. But that first time that a close friend, and I don't think it's the first time one of Brady's close buddies has been traded. Maybe I'm wrong. But it is jarring. And then, like, he's the captain. He's up there talking to the media. He has to answer the hard questions. Like, no wonder he got emotional. But, Biz, you're kind of right. Cozens, you think he would just be like, oh, I'm going to play. Like, leaving Buffalo to go to a contender or even a team just trying to get in the playoffs, it's got to be like a 7-year-old showing up to Disney World and having Mickey just immediately walk up to you and put the ears on your head. It's this wild
and a free
feeling.
fast pass.
It's a free fast pass, free VIP pass even.
And he gets to stay at the Brook Street.
No, he'll be at the Conrad, where he'll be at the Brook Street Hotel in Ottawa.
Oh,
remember that hotel?
That's out in Canada.
Oh, yeah, you just sit there. Back to the Brook Street. We did a playoff series 2 years in a row there. I didn't step foot outside. Great hotel. It's just in the middle of nowhere. Just the feeling of being in contention. Oh, my God. It was crazy, though, to see, like, Darlene getting bullied, and Ray Ferraro was like, Remember Cozens, though? Remember he fought Hathaway? Hathaway kind of gave it to him good. That might have been, one thing where it's like, dude, we're in last place. Like, I just got my head punched in. I don't know if I'm willing to still do this.
Boys, I hate to do this to Sabres fans right now. And keep in mind, I don't dig for this information. Like, it's given to me by the people who really, really matter and who move the needle as far as the insiders. But apparently Darlene met with Kevin Adams, and he said that if this doesn't turn around fast, I'm gonzos.
Oh, God. They didn't need this. Thank God Josh Allen re-signed today, or we could see some real problems on Chippewa Street.
I think that Darlene is a world-class defenseman that's just fed up with maybe some of the negligence that's been going on in Buffalo for far too long since he stepped in that organization. So could you imagine losing Eichel, losing all these other guys, Ryan O'Reilly? The list goes on and on and on of guys they've got rid of. Reinhart. 50-goal guy, and you could potentially be losing your all-star defenseman in Darlene, who is not happy with the way things have gone. So if they don't get him help and get it to him quick, nah, hey, goodbye.
But do you blame him, Biz?
No, fuck no. The fact that he's still there, I'm shocked. More positive news, though. Sticking in the East, Matthew Olivier, an absolute nail gun, leading the league in majors, gets an unbelievable contract. I can't remember the last time a fighter got a deal that was this healthy, but my God, well-deserved. 6 years, $3 million a year, 18 sheets for what I would say is the heavyweight champ right now. That Gadjevich fight after he signed that deal that other night in Florida, just it solidifies the fact that he is the top dog. He's the hungriest fighter in the league, and he's willing to go anyone and their mother right now. Anybody.
Then he scored against the Rangers too. I think it's his 13th. Dude, sometimes actually a lot of the time, timing's everything. And I'm saying the word time a lot right now. But this guy, to be a UFA this season and have this year with the year Columbus had. So it's not just him lighting up. It's like, and we're winning, and everyone feels safe when I'm on the ice. Like, you can't tell me having a guy like that doesn't open up skill players' games. Fantilli gets the hat trick, his second of the year in Madison Square Garden this weekend. Everything is going the right way in Columbus. Did you see Werenski's assist over to Danforth? Biz? I don't see it.
MVP conversation?
Dude.
Yeah. MVP conversation?
He toe drags some poor bastard and then just slides it over. Then he had another nice assist later in the game. That team is awesome to watch. I feel bad because it's really hard with Detroit, and I've been pumping up the Rangers tires, but I want Ottawa and I want Columbus as my two wild cards. I've switched again this week. Might be different next week, but right now, and Columbus will not be a team that I don't want to see get in. I just think the term they gave him is kind of crazy. Like, I wonder how they look at that. Give him the big payday, and we'll add on the years so the hit isn't bad at 3. But the way he plays, if he makes it 6 more years playing like that, that would be Hall of Fame worthy in itself.
And also, even since the Four Nations, a resurgence in fighting. I feel like there's way more dust-ups recently. Every time I'm turn on the TV, there's a scrum here, scrum there. Guys are chucking bombs. You got Tom Wilson versus Brady Tkachuk. You got the heavyweights a little bit more involved now. So with the relevancy of that and a guy that you can trust, where I'm looking at the other night against the Rangers, Olivier, 17 minutes of ice time. That's not just a fourth liner. That's a guy who could fucking play, man.
I didn't know he was playing that much.
I mean, that's not what he's getting every night, but in the last 5 games, he's gotten over 17 minutes twice, and he's usually around that 12-minute mark. So he's an effective player who can run guys through the wall, and one of the more intimidating guys to play against in the league. And I got to go to check out Werenski's numbers, but I think he hit the 20-goal mark the other night, didn't he?
Yeah, and he's dominating. G actually just sent to the chat here, he's 75-1 to win the Hart Trophy.
Oh.
I mean, if you want some odds, like DraftKings Sportsbook app, but it also as the bet, it's like they're just gonna give it to McKinnon or Leon. Like I feel like it's now just like leading scorer. They're both at this ridiculous pace. You get one guy's gonna win the Rock of Richard, the other guy's probably gonna win MVP, and it's hard. Oh, Leon's actually minus 150. That makes sense to me. What a season he's had. Yeah, Columbus was kind of quiet on the trade front. What else stood out to you, Biz, in any wild card races as a team? You're like, interested.
I like the fact that Detroit went and got out Mrazek. I like him. I think he's an incredible goaltender. I thought he looked great in Chicago. It is sometimes easier when you're getting peppered every night to get your numbers up there. The only issue with Detroit right now, though, boys, is they have the most difficult strength of schedule in the league right now, going into this final stretch. And they got all these other teams nipping at that wild card, including the Rangers. So I'm not as confident in Detroit getting in the playoffs right now as maybe I was a month ago. So Detroit fans might not be happy to hear that, but they didn't really do much at the deadline other than Mrazek to move the needle. So the time isn't now. The time is moving forward for Detroit. But at this rate, though, still an incredible season. You just hate to see them miss by like a couple points like they did last year when they got fucked by Washington. So I don't really have much to talk about as far as Detroit's concerned, or more of the Eastern wild card. But there is a lot of noise going on out west in that wild card as well.
Before we go to the Western wild card race, we should bring up, was Yanni Gourde traded? Had we covered that last show, or was that this week as well?
We haven't talked about Tampa. A couple undercover moves getting Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde, who Lalonde, who was on the panel at Sportsnet, had some great comments about how he's a very confident guy, very similar to like a Stankoven, where he's a puck hound, right? Maybe not a hockey sense that's going to blow you away, but a type of guy where you want from an energy standpoint on a third line to help change momentum in a game. And in some cases can maybe hop up on the second line if they need be. So like those sneaky moves. Thought maybe a little bit of an overpayment, but Brisebois, he said, I'm giving this team every opportunity to win now. And I thought that the moves were solid in order to try to make a playoff push. I think it's going to be Toronto, Tampa. And looking at the way that both teams are playing right now, I would say that that's a coin flip. So Coop's going to have the boys ready to go, and a great move by Brisebois getting those two guys.
Keith, I got to ask your opinion on something, because Brisebois had a quote that it's interesting, and I like it, but he said, I'd rather have a lineup full of good players than bank a ton of draft picks, because I think ultimately what we're trying to do is win hockey games. We want to win a lot of hockey games this season, next season, every season. We're chasing a championship now this season, but we're going to be chasing a championship next season and for the foreseeable future. As a fan, you got to love this, because the dark days, the days that the Bruins are headed toward, the days that the Penguins are in, those are coming. So just go until what is it? Ride her until she bucks you? Biz, is that the saying? You live on Jackson
You ride it till the wheels fall off.
So Keith, what do you think? Like, how sick is that being on Tampa, knowing?
Yeah.
All right, every year we're gonna do what we can to give it a go.
Yeah, I think if you're a player, that's what you want your GM, thinking and doing. And anytime you got Vasilevsky, Kucherov, Point, you got to be all in to win. What good is a 30th overall pick or the second round pick? Like when you can trade away those picks and get guys that are going to come in and help your team win. And Brisebois, he's proven it. He's hitting home runs on these deals that he's made. So I think there's zero questioning his logic to that. And you look at the teams that are the top of the echelon. Vegas, when I think of them, I think Vegas, Florida, Tampa, throw Edmonton, Colorado in there too. And those are the teams that are trading away all their draft picks, getting players, getting guys in who can help them win now. Because at the end of the day, the shelf life for a GM, I mean, I know Brisebois has been there for a while, but it's not very long. So you have to win. You can't just be like, hey, we got 5-6 years to figure this thing out. I think every team is or should be in the win now mode, and in those GMs that are doing it between Florida, Vegas, Tampa, Colorado, they're proving what they're doing is helping them win. And at the end of the day, the fans want to see Stanley Cups. The players want to see Stanley Cups.
That's what, and it's so hard to win. But the biggest thing is you're getting gassed when that begins anyway. It's like you won't be there dealing with it. So it makes total sense. But you see people like, they got no draft picks. Like, who cares, dude? They have a chance to win the cup. But it is nuts how hard it is to win and how much luck that goes into it. Make all these deals, boom, somebody gets injured.
Boys, if I'm Toronto, though, seeing Vasilevsky get hot the way he's getting hot over the last 18 games, oh, my God.
And Cooch, like, nobody's talking about Cooch this year. He's just having a sick season once again. And he never has that discussion. I voted for him for MVP. We're now getting to the quick hits presented by Dove Men's Plus Care. Finally, a scrub designed for men's needs. I have needs, guys. I know you two do as well. And Dove Men's Plus Care gives me that. It has what I need. And I added the new Dove Men Plus Care body and face scrubs to my shower routines. You should do as well. I think you guys could tell my skin looks pretty nice, right?
I was going to say.
Great.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. That's all because of Dove. You use it in the shower, bath, or at your sink. Apply to wet skin, rinse clean, and follow with your favorite Dove Men Plus Care body wash or cleansing bar. I like the bar. I think bars last longer almost, and then you don't have to deal with the bottle that stays in the shower for like 2 weeks because I never throw it out. So I'm a bar guy. The scrub transforms how you and your skin feel. It's made for your face, body, scalp, etc. You want to try Dove Men Plus Care? Find it at Walmart today. So on to the quick hits. First, a little off hockey news. The Bob Does Sandbagger is coming out Thursday.
Let's go, baby.
At noon Eastern.
I can't wait.
I got a little what do they call it when you get to see it first? Little VIP showing.
Sneak preview?
Sneak peek.
It's very funny. Keith,
I'm so excited because I don't remember shit.
Those two in this match, we get to the 8th or 9th hole, and you're like, oh, this is where I just don't remember anything yesterday. so the amount we drank,
I don't even know if we won or not. I can't wait for Thursday, Biz.
Thursday, you're gonna love it. And if you haven't,
your antics on the course are like, you were the perfect third to add to
wait
this
until
group.
you see this one.
And boys, I am very proud of the way I played. Sometimes I don't necessarily bring it on the golf course, but this might have been the round of my life.
I think our next match, you got to throw out your L5S1 again.
I know.
You were an absolute... I honestly don't remember the second one, but the first one, you were amazing.
Yeah. Or just crank 4 muscle relaxers and smoke
he also,
16 bones.
The first one on the drive there, I said, Biz, you got to just save your back. Just if Keith and I hit a bad one, you'll hit. But if you don't need to, you're not going to hit. We got to save your back. And he gets up on the first hole and goes first and stripes one down the middle. I'm like, okay, I think we got something to work with here. You were an animal. Thursday at noon, please check out our first match with them on the Bob Does Sports YouTube page. And then this is the rematch. So
where do you find that, Whit?
Our YouTube channel, Biz.
Good question.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. Yeah,
Spittin Chiclets YouTube. You got to subscribe to it. Currently, we have 388,000 followers. Not a big deal.
That's
and you
a
can
lot.
also watch our podcasts on there. You can watch Chiclets University that Grinelli and Fish do. Sometimes we do the Road Warriors, which we did recently with Scott Gomez and Mike Motto, who I thought was a forward, but was actually a D in the NHL, and plenty of other amazing videos to watch. Once again, on the Spittin
Four
Chiclets.
Nations.
Oh, the vlog
That
just came
was
out.
amazing. I
That was
wasn't there.
awesome.
That was amazing to watch. Great job, G. And I don't want to say the other guy's name.
Why? Fishy? What do you got
No,
against
Pasha.
Fishy?
No, I love fish.
Oh, you just don't
Yeah,
like
Pasha didn't do
the
shit. He was
delusional
just
Devils
crying.
fan.
He was crying as Jack Hughes was injured, and his team continues to stink. And next week, Thursday at noon, will be the Chiclets U from Minnesota. So that's 3 weeks in a row with 3 bangers at noon on a Thursday. Everyone, thank you. Ovi scored again. It was another empty netter.
8 empty netters.
This guy, if you pulled the goalie, Ovi's scoring. It almost looked, Keith and I, before you got on, Biz, were saying he was almost, I think, like, oh, this is getting out of hand. Like, I think I have to stop scoring empty netters.
8 on the season. I believe 65 now in his career, which is an NHL record for empty net goals. I think that we still continue to say, I hope he doesn't break the record on an empty netter. But I think at this point, it would just be fitting if he solidified a hat trick in that game with an empty netter to just be like, all right, this is a joke at this point. I still believe that he's going to play next year and maybe even another year after that, the way he's going, if he's still scoring 40 goals a year, and he will probably surpass Gretzky's record, even if you take away the empty netters. I still truly believe that the rate that he's scoring at, that's a possibility. So if you took away his all of his empty netters, that he could beat what Wayne Gretzky's goal record was.
So I've never heard anyone mention he wouldn't play next year.
No, I said the year beyond that. Next year is the last year of his deal. So if he did play last year, let's say he broke it towards the end of this year, he would have to score another whatever his empty net goal total would be, so 65. Well, he ain't doing that in 1 year unless he's on a lot of the Russian gas. But I would imagine that would have to take him 2 seasons to do. And at that point, they're probably going to be wheeling him around a chair out there based on how slow he would be.
It's the one-timer chair, like your knees down in the chair. You're just like, your arms in this like stable up here.
Well, fuck, man. If he's playing with Dylan Strome, he might do it next year for crying. That guy can find him anywhere.
My only argument with the empty netters is this year they're probably going to win the President's Trophy. So they're trying to win games. It's not like they're last in the league and they're pulling the goalie, putting them out there as a charity case. They're trying to win games to win the President's Trophy and to solidify their spot in the playoffs and to keep going. And he's out there icing games. Like, it's not like he's out there to get his goal. He's out there,
and he's the best.
I think he's out there for the. I think you think without the goal record he'd be out there.
Well, I mean, maybe not.
I think
why
it's
wouldn't
part of
he
the
be
goal.
doing it?
He's doing it and it's working.
Buddy, go watch that goal that he scored the other night on the empty net or the backhand.
No, it was sick.
against Seattle. There is nobody better at finding a way to get the empty net goal.
He
just has a knack for it. You can't teach
I want to
that.
hear from Capitals fans. Like, has he in his career prior, or like has he always been like up a goal with a minute left? Ovi's on the ice. I don't know. I'm just curious.
We'll see in playoffs. We'll see in playoffs.
I mean, he's averaging 5 empty net goals a year. I mean, who's done that in their career?
I'm still so bitter that when we played, or when I played, that you were not allowed. Like, you could never shoot at the empty net. If you ice the puck, you're a piece of shit.
I wasn't going to be out there.
The whole team will stink eye you. The coach will look at you and just motherfuck you up and down. Like, you never ice the puck. And now you're just allowed to I would have had a couple of, actually, I was never really out there up a goal, so I don't know where I'm going with this. Sometimes I got stuck out there and I was afraid to try to go for it. Now it's free reign.
I think this is a great segue considering we're talking about Ovi as we normally do. We always talk about Sid. They end up playing the Minnesota Wild the other night. It's probably Fleury's last game against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And both Crosby and Malkin end up scoring on him. And some of the comments and the posts and the chirping going on Instagram. Gino said my favorite frog with a picture with him. Like, I wish that the band was still together. I wish they were all still playing together. But just a great moment. And speaking of Ovi's record, Sid if he goes at a point per game clip, which he's probably going to do this year, it would be the 20th season in a row that he's done it, and he would surpass Wayne Gretzky, who has 19 seasons of a point per game, and that is just remarkable. So once again, these two guys carrying the league as such, and a great moment with their former teammate, and there was no pranks. Sid got to the hotel in Minnesota. He was a little nervous going to his room, but there was no pranks. It was all love.
Yeah, because Fleury didn't want to go to the St. Paul hotel and risk his life.
It's like walking into like a time machine in the lobby of that place.
Gosh.
like Boardwalk Empire.
I guess it's haunted, somebody said.
Yeah, exactly.
There would be Vancouver Canucks fans, I think, without ever winning a Stanley Cup and what's happened this season that say that they're haunted, Biz. And this deadline was kind of shocking. The whole season's been shocking. Canucks fans are not happy. Patrick Allvin, Jim Rutherford, nothing really went on, and they decided to keep Brock Besser. Now, I don't know who wants to take it from here, but what's your opinion on Patrick Allvin's quotes where he said, you'd be disgusted, basically, and shocked at the offers I received for Brock Besser? Basically saying, I got nothing offered for him. I was like, Jesus
I took
Christ.
it the other way. I took it the other way.
He was saying he got nothing. And
they wanted a first rounder, and if they didn't get that, they weren't going to move on from him because they're still in a chase here, right, boys? Like they're what, 1 or 2 points outside of that wild card spot. I would say that Besser loves playing there, right? He loves being there. I just think that maybe he probably, how do I word this? I think he wants more money than what he's worth based on how he drives a line. Like he's a clutch goal scorer. He needs to play with guys who get him the puck in the right areas. I view him as kind of like a Tyler Toffoli. So I don't know what exactly he wants in order to re-sign in Vancouver, but I think that he's the type of guy who's a perfect piece to like add kind of, oh God, I'm butchering this.
You're not. I don't want to be too critical. I hate being critical. As like the 5th best forward on the team, you're a cup contender. 4th best. Yeah. Now, Biz, was it true that he was that rumblings, or was it like known that they offered him 5 times 8? Do you remember that in the news? Pasha, was that legit?
I don't think that he's going to make $8 million.
Yes, Pasha's saying yes, and I was shocked that one, he turned it down.
8 years times $5 million?
No, 5 years times $8 million.
Wow. I mean, if they offered him that and he turned it down, I think that's fucking banana lands.
Me too. I was like, whoa, I thought that's a legit offer. Pasha's saying here in the chat that the Canes allegedly offered one of the Rantanen first rounders from Dallas for Besser with 30 minutes left before the deadline. That guy might have read that on the dark web. Like, who knows if that's legit? That's Pasha talking. But I just didn't like the comments. Like, I
would assume that he doesn't re-sign there based on those comments. I don't know if those were necessary. Maybe that was a tactic by Vancouver to like get in him and his agent's head, basically saying, if you think you're going to go to the market and get more than what we're offering or what you think you're worth, and that's not the case if nobody's willing to even give up a first rounder for you. But now I'm hearing that like that it kind of like contradicts what's out there because they said they didn't get offer a first rounder for him. So whatever Pasha's reading, he's on some.
He just said it's from Frank Saravelli reported that the Canucks have offered Besser a 5-year contract with. Oh, that was about the contract. That's Pasha's scoop about offering with 30 minutes left.
Yeah, I don't trust a word he's saying.
Sorry, I wasn't.
He's in my kitchen right now.
Oh,
I had to take out his shoelaces after what happened with the New Jersey Devils in the last 2 weeks. But yeah, I wasn't crazy about the comments. I don't think those need to go public.
I agree though. If he meant that by we didn't get shit offered to him and that's his tactic to try to sign him lower, I don't agree with that at all. Especially a guy that's been there and put in the sweat equity, as you like to call it, Biz, for that organization. Not a big fan of those comments. If that's what
he's a 40-goal guy. He's clutch when put in the right situation. Like, I'm not knocking his game. I just don't think that he's a line driver. And I think that $8 million is a lot of money. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to get that in the open market. And if he does,
if Marchie can't get $4 million from Boston, he ain't getting $8 million from Vancouver.
Boys, I think that about wraps it up. If you're somebody who's saying we didn't cover every single trade, I apologize for nothing. We went over the big dogs. I know there's a million little deals out there. Actually, I guess the volume wasn't as nuts this season. Sandbagger, Thursday. Oh, actually, Pasha did wrap this. Do you want me to read this? Guy's going after Aquilini now, Biz. Should I even read this message from this
Sure,
lunatic?
why not?
Warning, the following statements are about to be made by a deranged Devils fan. The views expressed are his and his only. Take everything you hear with a grain of salt because, remember, he is a deranged Devils fan.
He says they didn't trade Besser for a first rounder because they're covering Aquilini's short-sighted ass who doesn't want to miss out on 2 playoff home games every year by making the team worse. So that's Pasha's take right there. We should probably play the disclaimer before that. But yeah, surprised that Besser's still on the team and not signed. We'll see what happens this summer.
The only other guy I was going to mention in the league was Wolf, Dustin Wolf for the Calgary Flames.
Nasty.
This guy's playing out of his mind. Undersized goaltender who has just, I think he's going to be top 3 for Rookie of the Year and has really helped Calgary stay inside that second wild card. And Minnesota, man, they're struggling to score 5-on-5. They desperately need Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, and Brodin back. And if they don't get them back, holy fuck, the way that they're leaking oil, they'll be lucky to just get in the playoffs at this point. So not great times in Minnesota until they get healthy.
So many storylines coming down the stretch.
So
here,
many.
boys. It's so sick to see where this league's at. And Keith, you texted the group the other day. I cannot wait for playoffs.
My God.
It's going to be these first round matchups we're going to end up seeing, I think, and hope are going to be outstanding. Thank you very much to Gabriel Landeskog. Go check that out on TNT. Incredible first episode. And watch our Sandbagger Thursday at noon. And final shout out, Keith, Brian Yandel. And coming up, possibly Colin Yandel. Shout out your team, Keith. Shout out your team. Cushing Academy wins it all, Biz.
Oh, congrats, boys. That's awesome.
Thank you. First one since 1998.
I couldn't believe
Cushing Academy. Probably put more guys Division I, more guys professional. We just could never get the job done. When I was there, we had wagons of a team. When my brother was there, wagons of a team. Just could never win the big one. And this year, they brought in Ryan Bork, Ray Bork's son, Chris Bork's brother. They brought Ricky in to man the helm, and he got it done in his first year. And the best part about it, just with more drama in the hockey world, is they beat Dexter. Is it Dexter Academy?
Dexter
Whatever
Southfield.
it is, Dexter.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. They can't beat Little Caesars. I'll tell you that.
Couldn't be more proud of that group. My nephew, Little B, and the whole squad up there in Ashburnham, Mass. Bringing home the hardware. I absolutely love it. Proud of you guys, and love the Penguins Nation.
Next time we record, I'm going to be 40.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What do you think as you turn 40? Like what are your goals next year, Biz? 40's a big birthday.
Probably just get in better shape. Maybe work a little bit less. Why are you rolling your eyes?
I can't believe
you work
wanna
out
get in
twice
better
a
shape,
day,
dude.
bro.
No, I
what
don't.
kind of shape? Biz,
I'm
not even joking. What
dad bods are in?
What how much better shape can you get in?
I mean, you can never get too good, right? I mean,
if you play something.
I don't even play nothing, dog.
Like a sport, you mean?
Yeah, no, it's just like, who is that? Theo Vaughn. Theo Vaughn. He's got a trainer just all over him, Biz. He's dying. He's like, I don't even play nothing, dog. But
he's a legend.
Basically, I'm like, for what you do, like your life, you're in pretty fantastic.
Yeah,
shape.
just I mean, health is wealth, right? As you get older, that's the key, right? Maybe better diet. Just all of it. Just more time with friends. Maybe living more in the present. That would be a goal of mine. My mind kind of races, whether it's looking forward too much or looking in the past too much. Staying more present would probably be number one on my list.
I feel like you're a present guy.
No.
Unless there's trade rumors going around, you're on your phone at dinner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't even eat with you guys the last meal we were at, but I'm excited.
Your ability to be present, it's kind of like you're bipolar, because when you're present, I think you could agree with me here. Your involved conversation's incredible. It's awesome.
It's eye contact. He's looking you right through the eyes.
Then when he's not present, it's like he's literally not in the room. So there's big peaks and valleys in your how present you are. But when you're present, buddy, God, do we have some good combos.
Okay.
I hope you have an amazing birthday week.
Thank you.
I think it's going to be unreal for you just to take a little time off, appreciate what you've accomplished, Biz. You're now kind of an insider too. You haven't even asked us. You're like the Dark Knight.
I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Shout out to Elliot Freeman. Hell of a deadline. What a legend that guy is. And I don't know how the fuck he does it on the lack of sleep and everything that's coming at him and all this chaos that the NHL has to offer these days. Just an incredible league. It's thriving. And that was a great pod, boys. I love you guys. Thank you very much. And love your guys' friendship. Thank you.
Love you,
We
bro.
love you too,
Keith,
Busy.
Keith, I will see you soon. Thursday, noon, Sandbagger rematch, Bob Does Sports. Love you guys.
Whoa, guys. Before we wrap here, we have a little breaking news. Not the greatest news, though, for Cats fans. Aaron Ekblad has been suspended 20 games without pay for violating the terms of the NHL's performance-enhancing substance program.
Okay,
Wow.
so Witt hopped
Whoa,
off here. He
whoa.
had to go bring Ryder to hockey. Fuck Jans. That's a...
Oh, my God.
All right here. Okay.
20 game?
Guys, we actually have a statement from Ekblad himself here if you guys want me to read that as well.
Let's
Yes,
go
please.
here.
So he says, as the NHL announced, I have been suspended for violating the NHL and NHLPA performance enhancing substances program. The news that I had failed a random drug test was a shock. Ultimately, I made a mistake by taking something to help me recover from recent injuries without first checking with proper medical and team personnel.
Okay.
I have let my teammates, the Panthers organization, and our great fans down. For that, I am truly sorry. I have accepted responsibility for my mistake and will be fully prepared to return to my team when my suspension is over. I've learned a hard lesson and cannot wait to be back with my teammates.
So he's taking responsibility. Damn. Like, what was his injury?
He's had a bunch, and like recently had something with his knee. And I think the last couple of years, just playing so much hockey, I think he's just been bumped and bruised. Oh man, I've known Aaron for a long time now, and I can definitely say like he wasn't out there doing steroids to like get better. He said he did. I was kind of blacked out a little bit when you were talking, just trying to take this information in, but you said it was trying to, recover. So
You think it was Jack 3D?
Yeah, like you back in the day? No. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it was like a recovery, those lotions and stuff. And, you just don't read the fine print
The
or
Barry
don't
Bonds
expect
gummies?
Oh, man.
Hey, do you think there's a possibility that they were aware of this before they made the Seth Jones trade?
Ooh,
Do you think Toronto
wow,
Maple Leafs
hot.
should launch an investigation on this?
No, if they knew, I'm sure it's because they were allowed to know, and they just went out and made a good deal to bolster their back end.
Cheaters.
I don't know. That's a good question, Biz. I don't know. I don't know how long the team's known. I would imagine I don't think it probably came down the pipe today. But going out and getting another all-star defenseman doesn't hurt.
Oh, so you don't think that's cheating?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Jans,
To you?
Or G, what do you think?
I would say it's cheating. I think
That's-
we
I
need a
agree with
full-blown
you.
investigation. I
with
think
you.
you send Marchand back to the Bruins, and we just kind of do this whole
There
day
we go.
over.
And then we call it even. We
Yep.
call it even. Okay, so actually,
guys are
before we
idiots.
end here, I know we already talked about this too. The Carolina Hurricanes situation with Rantanen. So since we were on, the story broke that when Rantanen got there, when he showed up, as in Rantanen, this is from Rod Brindamore's mouth. He said, "There's 4 teams I'll go play for, and you're not one of them." So this has gone viral on Carolina Hurricanes Twitter. They're going nuts and like basically prima donna this, prima donna that. I had a couple people actually sending me tweets being like, this completely nicks what PK Subban said in sense of like the fact that like hockey players aren't like drama queens. And like, no matter what the situation, they play their hardest, as if though this guy wasn't trying to play hard, playing under this new system and with a new team. Like, ridiculous. Okay. Carolina Hurricanes fans, ridiculous right now. And it kind of goes back to what I was talking about. This is a top line right winger in the league. Okay. We were talking about a top 5 right winger. If you're telling me as a free agent, he doesn't have the right to say, I want to play here or I don't want to play here, you're out of your mind. And on top of that, as I mentioned, never once was he like, yes, I want to go to Carolina. They asked him if he was willing to start negotiating, and he was like, no. And now there is a little bit more information that trickled out that his I think maybe his agent said like, okay, maybe we would be open to it, but never out of Rantanen's mouth did he say, I want to go to Carolina and finish off the next 8 years of my career. And that is a big decision you have to make as a player. And Jans, I was never, ever in a situation where I was able to say that as a player. Like, let's make sure we separate the two. But when you've accomplished what Mikko Rantanen has accomplished in the NHL, you've won a Stanley Cup and you're on this team for the minute you've stepped in the league and you play a certain way, to ask a player to go to a different situation where they play a completely different system and instead of possessing the puck, you're going to dump it in and chase it. I don't think that that's that ridiculous. And even as a player, why would you want the organization to go through that if you're genuinely not happy and that's not how you want to play hockey? You're not going to be playing that hockey in the best kind of system because that's just not how you play. So he's essentially doing you a favor, not only by telling you before he went there, I don't want to be here, but also when you offer him 13 and a half, no, I still don't want to be here. So Carolina Hurricanes fans and the organization can be as mad as they want, but this could have all been dealt with when Tulski was told, no, he doesn't want to be there, but he still tried to trade for him and convince him otherwise. Now he's on a team just like Colorado where he's going to play with a center who flies through the neutral zone and distributes the puck and a top 3 to 5 line rush team and possession team in the league, exactly like where he was. So I don't think this is that crazy, but Caniacs, have at it just the way you've had at it the entire time. And by the way, if you go back to all the podcasts, everything I said about this, I was bang on. I was bang on. Jans, anything to say?
No, not much. I think you crushed it. Yeah, I think he's earned the right to, like you said, he's going to be a free agent this summer. He's earned the right to kind of pick where he wants. He's a superstar in the league. He's, a guy that's won. And I honestly think he did them a favor by, telling them before the trade deadline so they could get assets for him. And it's one of those things where if he just kind of stuck it out and was like, you know what, I'll just finish the year here in Carolina and then figure out in the summertime. But he didn't do that. He, essentially he said he didn't want to be there, so they had to trade him, and they get a good player back. And I don't think he deserves any of the blame on this. I think it's kind of one of those things where he wasn't happy somewhere, obviously. And, when you're that stature in the league, you can kind of determine where you want to be. And I think he's earned all those rights.
I just think the energy is being misplaced a little bit for Caniacs. And I actually think that you should be happier about the situation you're in because you have a player who plays exactly how you guys play. And he's cheap as hell, and he's going to want to be there. And then what you guys keep telling me, you have all this cap room. You can go address any needs you have this summer, and you guys are laughing and in good shape. And I'll stick to my word here. I still think they're going to the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll see if they can get over the hump this time. So that's a wrap. Great last minute breaking news there. Sucks we didn't have Whit on board, but great pod, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah,
Bob does
birthday,
Sandbagger Thursday, noon. Watch it. Tune in. Happy birthday, Busy.
Thanks, boys.